Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Horror Game. I have the Evil God source code. Chapter 81. Her rating for this game is D+. According to the rules, 40% of the experience points and game coins obtained in this round have to be deducted. For outside audiences who are more familiar with horror games, if the score is lower than C, then the contribution value of this script world is negligible. In short, it is A. Yu Anqi's gaze was a little dull, on the one hand because she was helpless with her grades, on the other hand, she just fell asleep. In the hospital, the beds and quilts that used to be hard to dye are now a 5-star enjoyment, with blood transfusions, and some desserts to supplement the sugar, and then comfortably sinking. Until the end of the game, teammates take the lead. Oh, D+, am I getting worse and worse? I still have a C+ in the last one. I lost a whole big rating. She returned to the lounge with a bitter face, sat on the bed, and thought about it in all fairness. No, it shouldn't be this difficult at all. After thinking about it from the beginning to the end of 177, the blood-stained figure in white clothes appeared in front of Anqi's eyes. Ah, could it be because he is too powerful? The hidden score is too high. Most new players initially thought that the matching mechanism of horror games is arranged according to level. That is to say, teammates are all about the same level, and the world difficulty of the matching script is also based on their average level. But soon, they discovered that this was not the case. Yu Anqi hasn't experienced many script worlds, but she once heard a big brother talk about an experience with emotion. The elder brother said, if there is a certain player in the team who is too strong, the script world allocated by the system will be too rare. It's not a level. There is no absolute relationship between strength and level. At that time in the scripted world, we were a team of 4, I was level 4, both teammates were level 3, and there was only one female player who was level 2. I still remember that female player named Lu Yi. She is very beautiful, she dresses like a special professional, she speaks in a manner, every word seems to be seductive, and she even wears socks. In this way, we looked down on her at all from the beginning, thinking that she would not live long at all. A beautiful woman with big breasts and no brains. In the world of dangerous scripts, she still pays so much attention to makeup and grooming. Generally speaking, this is the first typical character in a horror movie to die. It turned out that we were all stupid. It was a prehistoric scripted world, and there were many dangers that we couldn't even imagine, and in the end it was almost wiped out. But unlike our initial expectations, that Lu Yi didn't hold us back. On the contrary, these sisters are so strong that it's ridiculous. Just 2 shots, or a pistol, blinded a running Tyrannosaurus Rex, can you believe it? That's a miracle. That time, 2 of our teammates died, I was seriously injured, and Lu Yi was slightly injured. I thought about it later, she didn't practice this kind of marksmanship in a day or 2. This kind belongs to the strong in reality, and she is still strong in the game, and the strong will always be strong. I have never encountered such a difficult script world before. I thought about it for a long time, and I think it is because of her. Although she is not high in level, she is very strong in personal strength. That's why we are matched with our teammates who are all higher in level than her. That's why there is such a disgusting scripted world. But I still really want to see her again. Yu Anqi sneered at the thought of the elder brother's wretched look like Brother Pig at the end of his speech. But think about it. Luo Shu and this Lu Yi should be in the same situation. It is also a low-level, high configuration, hell difficulty scenario. Such a strong teammate, I don't know whether it is good or bad for us ordinary people. However, in retrospect, Luo Shu is so handsome. Yu Anqi sat on the bed, resting her cheeks, thinking in a daze. Luo Shu touched the skinless female corpse, looking thoughtful and serious. Flying over on that flying board, the arrogance of shooting with 2 guns. Next to the exploding building, when eating hot pot with confidence. Yu Anqi had never met such a person. It completely subverted her aesthetics of men. Hiss, I hope to match him again, it should be possible, right? The matching mechanism seems to match him nearby, if he also lives in Zhonghai City. In Yu Anqi's live broadcast room, her fans naturally also saw her tragic rating. But the attitude of these fans is very good. Baby angel, don't be too sad, it's not that you're weak, it's that Luo Shu is too fierce, you're already great. Yes, in fact, there is no problem at all, it is so cute when calling back souls. Actually, Enchi still played a big role. The keywords that the ghost said were obtained by Enchi's summoning of the soul. Yes, yes, yes. Monsters, schools, and many me. When I matched them one by one at the end, my whole body was horrified. The audience from Luo Shu's side couldn't stand it anymore. Is this an embarrassing boast? I said, are you a bit too patient with female players? She can't hear it again. You all boast a ball of yarn. Ah, this is how this world is, female gamers are favored. No, no, only beautiful players are favored. Opening square bracket question mark closing square bracket. Handsome male player, very popular. Although the male audience scolds, but the female fans love it. But I found that there are very few handsome players in horror games. 1. Go to the cute zone. There are still a lot of them, but the real little fresh meat often doesn't survive 2 times before dying. Quack 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 quack. What kind of uncle is that Zhang Feng? Middle-aged greasy uncle, unpopular, unless the strength is particularly strong. Ah, I just came over from Zhang Feng. It seems that he has gained a lot of popularity, a lot of female fans. Opening square bracket question mark closing square bracket. Opening square bracket question mark closing square bracket. Opening square bracket question mark closing square bracket. Teleportation room. Zhang Feng looked down at his chest. Touch repeatedly. The hole that pierced through his chest just now seemed like a nightmare, and he just woke up now. But reason told him that it was not a dream. Just a little bit, he closed his eyes forever. At the moment of life and death, Zhang Feng had to think about it repeatedly, and the more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. He thought of that kick from Luo Shu. If it wasn't for that kick, and I deviated a little bit, the female monster's tail would have pierced my heart. Brother Luo, you seem to be a little bit wrong, but you're not that bad, right? Ha. After this round, Zhang Feng has already risen to 5. Luo Shu left the deepest impression on him after playing more than a dozen scripts, big and small. Feel like playing with him, you have to help him find the way. This is obviously very dangerous, but there is also a strange sense of security. It's as if as long as he is there, he will never let you die. Like you Anchi, Zhang Feng also pondered for a while whether it is good or not to form a team with this kind of person. I hope there will be a chance to fight side by side. Zhang Feng felt that he had figured it out. Luo Shu is a good teammate. Because he feels that people and monsters in the script world are afraid of him. That's a good teammate. After Zhang Feng figured it out, he took a good look at the settlement of his round. The overall score is C, which is already good. Finally, he noticed a very strange thing. Somebody put a coin. I actually invested thousands of dollars. Why did the fans grow so much? What happened? Zhang Feng's strength is not the worst, but it is far from the best. He is average looking and slightly older. So there has never been much attention, and there have always been very few fans, let alone those who are willing to give him real money. But now there is an abnormal increase in fans. He thought about it, but couldn't think of the reason at all. At this moment, in his live broadcast room, many female fans appeared. Uncle Zhang, we are here to support you. We are from Luo Shu. We are CP fans. The script world this time is still very scary. But when I saw half of it, I thought, wow. It's a wonderful sense of CP ha 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 ha. The strong sense of contrast has already given rise to a wonderful sense of CP. Luo Shu is so young and handsome, obviously supposed to be a milk dog, yet so cruel and strong. Then Uncle Zhang looks silly, with an inexplicable sense of CP. The black-bellied milk wolf covers the sight of a loyal dog uncle. Yeah, it's so fun to see your interaction. It's coin-operated. Uncle Zhang buys some good equipment. Keep it up. It's just the 8th generation. For a moment, Zhang Feng was full of energy in the deserted live broadcast room. Most of his followers were middle-aged men who were similar to him. Watching Zhang Feng pass the level in the horror game, he was worried and had a sense of substitution. We are all ordinary people, but we are suddenly selected by the hardships of life. What should we do? We can only bite the bullet and fight. It looked a little hot-blooded. But hot blood is easy to cool, especially the script world is getting more and more dangerous, and Zhang Feng is getting more and more difficult in the game. They are worried and can't bear to watch, so there are fewer and fewer people. Now suddenly seeing a lot of cute girls, the uncles suddenly regained their youthful feeling and became active again. I'm really old. What does CP mean? Ah, couples usually use CP, maybe they are corrupt girls. Wow, uncle, do you still know about rotten girls? Ah, I'm not that old, haha. Thriller game is a deadly game. In the eyes of many people, the game itself has a supernatural, terrifying, and desolate undertone. So at the beginning, many naive girls poured into the thriller game, talking about the second grade, and forming an inexplicable CP enclosure. Many people were disgusted. But slowly, most mature people have discovered it. Either naive or childish, it is really a rare sweetness in a bitter life. Those uncles have experienced hardships in life, suffered too much hardship, and cherish that little bit of sweetness even more. They recognize this and can appreciate the naive purity and beauty of girls. Therefore, in the horror game forum, a large number of intra-city exchange posts appeared, hiding YP and aid teachers, data deleted. Luo Shu washed his hands and face, and prepared metaphysically. It's time for the lucky draw again. In the previous game, if the player's SAN value dropped by less than 30%, he could get an extra chance to draw a lottery. Your SAN value dropped to 0%. Lucky draw ticket all categories times 1. Lucky draw ticket all categories as long as it is within the appropriate range of the player's current level. Equipment, items, and special props of any quality can be drawn here. 1 left. The player unlocked the world view in the game just now, and can get an extra chance to draw a lottery. Lucky draw ticket, skill X1. Lucky draw ticket, skill category as long as it is within the appropriate range of the player's current level, any skill can be drawn. Most players have never had a chance to draw a lottery for the third reward. The second reward for unlocking the world view is also only occasionally. As for Luo Shu, it is basically standard equipment. He rubbed his hands together, very excited. Which one should I draw first? Let's draw the limited skill category first. After all, the selection of lottery tickets for all categories is larger, and it is even more exciting. Luo Shu chooses to use. It's the familiar exaggerated special effects again. The animated gift box keeps shaking. Then it explodes. Boom! The animation of the black leather scroll slowly unrolls. The scroll emits a great light. Then the light gradually dimmed. Congratulations to the player. Won the 4th prize. Acquisition Medical Ninjutsu, Palm Immortal Jutsu. Luo Shu's eyes lit up. This is okay. He was originally a medical student, and he really wanted the skills of a nurse. Medical ninjutsu or something, it's too practical in a dangerous horror game. But he forgot about the hidden, ghost, source code again. The abnormal source code carried by Luo Shu is obviously not satisfied with this skill. Before he could accept it, the handwriting on the scroll became disordered and fluctuated. Again, Luo Shu had a bad feeling. Acquired skills, medical ninjutsu. Palm Immortal Jutsu. Data delete modify data. Acquisition of skills, medical ninjutsu. Slap technique. Luo Shu was silent, looking at the 3 characters of slap art. I read it for a long time. Just one word apart, it seems that medical ninjutsu has turned into some kind of strange physical art. That bad feeling was strong. Luo Shu always feels that this abnormal source code seems to want to portray him as a person who does not conform to the core values of socialism. Forget it, since it comes, it will be safe. Thinking so, Luo Shu received the skill. Name, Medical Ninjutsu, Slap AR. Type, Skill Ninjutsu. Skill Introduction. No need to seal, directly mobilize the chakra in the body, concentrate on the palms of both hands according to a specific path. A large amount of pure and high concentration chakra needs to be slapped on the skin of the face, and slowly enter the body from the facial acupuncture points, where the chakra flows through. The cells in the injured body will be activated and the wound will be healed very quickly. Special Effect 1. Slowly restore the life value of the slapped person. Special Effect 2. Slowly restore the physical strength of the slapped person. Special Effect 3. Slowly restore the SAN value of the slapped person. Usage Method. Permanent Mastery. Learning Conditions. Unlocked Medical Field. Unlocked Magic Field. Requirements for use. A pair of complete human hands is required, and the person who is slapped must have a biological face. Consumption. 1 slap, 10 spiritual power points. Remarks. Once upon a time, in a ninja village where chickens don't lay eggs and birds don't shit, an amazingly talented medical ninja was born. On the basis of the palm fairy technique, he invented the slap technique with stronger recovery, hanging the pot to help the world, benefiting a village. He was later beaten to death by the people of the village. Luo Shu, I really think you are talking nonsense seriously, but I have no proof. It has to be said that, apart from the fact that the inventor's fate is more miserable, this skill. It really is. There is something. Can you restore sand value by slapping? It's just that it doesn't say exactly how the resilience is. It probably varies from person to person, and it also depends on the injury. It can only be tested on future teammates. Moreover, you can use this skill to judge how much spiritual power you have. Well, not bad, not bad. Luo Shu still has a strong ability to accept. Now that he has this skill, he no longer dislikes it, but likes it more and more. Then he went on to draw the lottery. This time, let's have something a little more normal. Luo Shu made a wish first, and then used this all-category lottery ticket. Congratulations to the player. Won the third prize. Oh hoo, third prize. As the scroll slowly unfolded, Luo Shu knew that it was another skill. But this time, it seems to be a normal skill. Acquisition of skills, consecration. Name, consecration. Type, skill, dharma. Skill introduction. Recite the consecration mantra, with sincerity and sincerity, lightly touch the surface of the thing that needs to be consecrated with both hands, slowly transfer the mana into it, and consecrate it. Do not consecrate for living beings. Special Effect 1. Any consecrated utensil can cause damage to filthy ghosts. Consecrated weapons can cause additional damage to all dark life. Special Effect 2. Any consecrated utensil will produce subtle strengthening according to its own nature and the wish of the holder. Usage Method. Permanent Mastery. Learning Conditions. Unlocked Magic Domain. Unlocked Mysterious Domain. Requirements for use. There is a mantra, a hand touch, a safe environment and enough consecration time. Consumption. Casting spells at full power consumes 2% of spiritual power per minute. Remarks. There is a monk who is a little rebellious and a little arrogant. Until one day, he was arrested in accordance with the law for engaging in unfair commercial competition. He consecrated family planning supplies. At the end, Luo Shu found that this skill. I didn't go anywhere normally. Or maybe it is precisely because it is not normal that the abnormal source code has not modified this skill. Luo Shu analyzed it carefully. Consecration. This skill is actually very simple. It looks mysterious. To put it bluntly, it is similar to enchanting weapons. No matter what kind of script world it is in, ghosts and ghosts, with ordinary weapons, must be difficult to cause damage, and they cannot even be touched. And with this skill, even if it is to light up a toilet, it can also be used to fight ghosts. However, the really interesting part is the special effects 2 part. Any consecrated utensil will produce subtle strengthening according to its own nature and the wish of the holder. Its own nature, as well as the wishes of the supporter, combined with the remarks, the monk consecrated the family planning supplies. Luo Shu's eyes suddenly burst open. Hitting his palm with his fist, he said excitedly, this skill has infinite possibilities. Learn decisively. In order to verify the effectiveness of this skill, Luo Shu took out the alloy tang knife from the inventory, sat cross-legged on the ground with a clear heart and righteous thoughts, then pulled out the tang knife from its sheath, and placed it firmly on his lap. He lightly touched the cold blade with both hands, instilled the content according to the skills, and said in his mouth, Om, Komuga, Botuma, Sunari, Terra Taroni. While reading, he felt the spiritual power in his body, which was forcibly converted into another kind of warm magic power by the skill. Nothing abnormal could be seen in the hands, but they seemed to be soaked in warm sunlight. The blade was slightly covered with a layer of white light. During the consecration process, Luo Shu could feel the mana slowly entering into it. At the same time, he can also feel the upper limit of the material capacity of this alloy tang knife. Obviously, different materials have different degrees of mana that can be accommodated, and it is estimated that the speed of passage will also vary greatly. After about 5 minutes, the consecration of this Tang Dao was officially completed. Phew, it feels like a deep meditation. Luo Shu glanced at his spiritual power, and there was still 90% left. The white light on Tang Dao faded away, and it didn't look any different. But when Luo Shu picked up the knife, he let out a "ha" in surprise. The weight of this knife has not changed at all, but it feels different when you pick it up. A sense of mastery, like using your arms and fingers. Luo Shu, who had never practiced before, even casually pulled a knife to make him look decent. It feels like turning a pen, so easy. Test the sharpness again. Luo Shu let the blade point upwards, then pulled out a few hairs, and put them on gently. Then he took a breath. Broken. Wet. Luo Shu was overjoyed. Blow the hair and break the hair. This alloy tang knife was originally in He Zhengu's collection. Except for the tougher blade forged by modern technology, it has no outstanding features. But after the light is turned on, the sharpness of the blade has obviously reached the level of a famous sword. Generally speaking, it is not difficult to achieve cutting-edge hair cutting with modern technology. The included angle of the blade is small, and the blade is thin enough to blow and break hair. It's just that such a knife can't be used in actual combat at all, and the oxidation of air alone can passivate such a thin blade. But Luo Shu carefully observed the blade of this tang knife. Consecration did not make it thinner, but it still made it sharper to an incredible level. This is a phenomenon that physics cannot explain. Luo Shu held the knife and felt it for a while. Well, the mana stored in it is also slowly passing away. The shelf life of consecration is very short. Even if the best material is used, it may be semi-permanent at best. Luo Shu evaluated the efficiency of consecration, the speed of passage, and whether there is still time to consecrate weapons and equipment after entering the script world. Resolutely pour out the other 2 weapons in the equipment bar. Sharpening a knife is not a mistake in chopping firewood. Open it all up and talk about it again. The script world does not exist for anyone. After the player leaves, these worlds are still running according to their own orbit. Hong Kong Island, Donglan Hospital. Almost the entire Hong Kong Island was surrounded by police cars, sirens blared, and hundreds of policemen rushed in together with the Secret Service team. 2 police helicopters and 3 rescue helicopters appeared over Donglan Hospital at the same time. On the north side of the hospital, behind the blasted wall, a long cordon was pulled out next to Ren Wei's body. One officer had just gotten out of the car and was eating breakfast with bread in his hand, and another officer came running from behind the fence, throwing up beside the car. The police officer who just got out of the car gave him a contemptuous look. After walking to the wall, he took another look at the face of Ren Wei's corpse. Then ran back, lay on the body, and vomited together. On the slope of the woods, the policeman suspiciously pulled away a bunch of clumsy bushes to disguise, and dragged up Vivian, who had dug a hole and buried herself. She cried and hugged every policeman warmly. Then put on a blanket and consciously sit in the back seat of the ambulance. Putting on a blanket and holding hot tea, he silently looked out of the car window at this terrifying world full of corpses. But the sun rose of the king, and its boundless light covered all demons and monsters. In Block E, during the battle with the mercenaries, the surviving members of the community and the police shook hands and hugged with mixed feelings, as close as a family, and promised each other to take care of each other in the future and never kill each other. Police Phagia, have fun, create a better life together. On the sea, before the arrival of the large forces, the mercenaries who retreated in time, their stowaways had just left the abandoned port of Iron Bay. Surrounded by more than a dozen Hong Kong Island Marine Police speedboats. Listen, people inside, you have been surrounded by the Hong Kong Island Marine Police. Put down your weapons immediately. Get out of your hands and put your heads in your hands. Get out of the cabin. After a while, those brave mercenaries could only throw down their guns and walk up to the splint with their heads in their arms. The sun was blinding, and they were all over their heads. Then they were pushed to the ground by the Marine Police who boarded the ship, and handcuffed. It seems that the night has passed and everything is shrouded in sunshine. Except their underground clone base, Yinsheng Building, Block E. The position of the lift platform in the lobby has been forcibly blasted by the police, opening an ugly hole. Hong Kong Island's EU Emergency Force O's Organized Crime and Triad Investigation Bureau, and PTU Hong Kong Police Tactical Unit were the first to slide down the rope. He Zhenggu walked around surrounded by many club boys. Although his walking posture was still domineering and his waist was still straight, his face was full of sleepiness and sadness, with deep bags under his eyes. He obviously hadn't slept all night. He walked outside the entrance of the lobby of Block E before he was stopped by the remaining police force. Mr. He, you can't go. He Zhenggu was not angry and arrogant. Do you know who I am? How dare you stop me? That policeman is a criminal policeman from OG, and he is also fully armed now, with a stern expression and no face at all. Mr. He, this incident has far exceeded your sphere of influence, even beyond the entire Hong Kong island, the scope that can be controlled. This is a serious international incident, please understand. He Zhenggu stared at him sullenly, and the policeman showed no fear. Soon, He Zhenggu was convinced. He walked all the way and saw the Asura hell outside. The mutilated corpses of those inhuman monsters never seen in even the worst nightmares. Sorry, officer. He Zhenggu's voice trembled, but there is my daughter down there. I want to go down to and see her as soon as possible. The policeman with Q record still shook his head, but his tone was softer. No, you can only wait here, at most you can just wait here. He Zhenggu nodded and could only accept. No matter what, even if He Yushi wants to get out of his control. As a father, He Zhenggu doesn't want anything to happen to her. In the underground base, one door after another was violently blasted open with no technical content. Groups of clones of different ages were silently driven by the police to line up in the nearest underground plaza, and then they were questioned. But they were all silent. No matter how coaxed the questioning police officers were, they didn't say a word. No matter how old these clones look, wearing blue and white school uniforms, they seem to be just a group of children with timid eyes. Soon, they rescued all the clones. 824 people. Half an hour later, they reached the heterogeneous test area and cold storage area on the second floor underground. A surviving heterogeneous embryo was found, Hiyushi's body was also found, and a fainted little boy was also found. Since the forensics and other forensic personnel have not yet arrived, they have not even confirmed the identity of the monster's body. Okay, let's all go out. Protect the scene. Wait for the forensics department to come over. The person who spoke was OG's superintendent, and also the highest-ranking police officer here. The other police officers immediately walked out with the little boy in their arms. They didn't want to stay in this room full of stench and horror for a moment. Sir Chi, what about? Aren't you leaving? Superintendent Chi covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief. He also looked disgusted at the appearance of this place, and waved his hands. I'm here waiting for the forensics department to arrive. You guys send the child up, he may be a key witness. A few constable police officers immediately said, yes sir. After confirming that they were all gone, Superintendent Chi went to the corpse and knelt down to check. He had a button mic hidden in his neckline. We've already come in. It seems that all the information you want has been cleaned up, and the corpse used for the experiment has not been found. This woman and that dead bald head are clean enough. I can't help it. This is a successful experiment in front of me. Let me take a little tissue from her. Can one finger do it? Okay. Superintendent Chi took out a delicate switchblade from his pocket, ready to cut off one of Yushi's fingers. He suddenly discovered that Yushi's right hand had lost an index finger. Superintendent Chi was stunned for a while, and thought about it. Maybe he couldn't trust himself there, and asked other members of the police force to handle this matter. Impossible. I was staring at it just now. That can only be done by the murderer. Superintendent Chi went around the scene twice more, but couldn't find the severed finger. So I didn't think so much anymore, and cut off one from her left hand vigorously, and put it in her pocket. Not long after, the people from the forensic department finally arrived, and Superintendent Chi handed over to them. Then go outside. We walked past the group of silent clones outside, the police officers maintaining order, and the rushing medical staff. He walked past the distraught He Zhenggu, and walked past the menacing club boys. Go outside Block E and stand under the sky. The sun was glaring. Superintendent Chi squinted his eyes, and beckoned a policeman annoyedly, and found him a parasol. The sun was blocked, and the shadows covered his face again. Superintendent Chi felt much more comfortable, walked to a secluded place, and said to the button mic, "It's all done, I took one of her fingers, when will your people come and get it?" On the other end of the phone, the man who spoke pure American English. Wait for my notice. Then hung up the phone. On the far side of the Pacific Ocean, in a meeting room in the United States, there was a blond old man with a sunken face who was in a video conference at the same time. He swiveled the boss chair back and faced the computer screen. It's done, I took a finger from her. On the screen, there are more than a dozen men and women of different races and skin colors. They looked satisfied. That's good. In this way, even if both Hiyushi and Renwei are dead, it doesn't matter. The blond old man smiled slightly, with deep nasolabial folds all over his face. Yes, we will help her complete the Super Sapiens plan. An immaculate lounge. Luo Shu had a good night's sleep again, and when he woke up, he went to defecate in the morning. Of course, he doesn't know if it's early morning outside, it doesn't matter. After washing up, I spent 1 game coin, had a hearty breakfast, and then consciously walked to the teleportation room. Player, please prepare as soon as possible. Luo Shu was full of energy. I'm ready. Hurry up. Countdown 60 seconds. Luo Shu is gearing up. Stop the countdown. Horse. Get on. Send. Send. Unfortunately, there is no such option. At the end of the script world, the player can choose to teleport immediately, but before it can start, it must accept the countdown, and I don't know why. After waiting patiently for 60 seconds, Luo Shu's eyes went dark. Welcome to the horror game. This time, it sounded like an old man with a smoky voice, hoarse and unpleasant, and there was a mouthful of old phlegm stuck in the trachea. Luo Shu opened his eyes. He was sitting, with a computer in front of him, displaying a clean default Windows desktop wallpaper. His first reaction was to try to stand up to make sure he wasn't tied up. Without any hindrance, Luo Shu stood up. Then he saw the furnishings in the room. A white multifunctional stretcher chuang, computer desk, medicine cabinet, and such things as defibrillator, electrocardiogram machine, ventilator, etc. I'm in a hospital. Looks like an emergency room. Whether you are happy or not, Luo Shu first wants to confirm some basic information. Iro. Who is this? Where are the teammates? As soon as he thought about it, he saw the Q version of the avatars and life points of 3 people appearing in front of him. Sure enough, it's a 4-person script, and the number of people has increased. But why am I not with them? This scripted world is purposely keeping us apart. To make it harder. Teammates have 2 males and 1 female, their names are also displayed, they are called. Lei Shihu, male, can be seen from the profile picture. Lei is a relatively rough guy, with a lush beard and thinning hair. Zhao Kaixing, male, looks like a gentle middle school male teacher. Lu Yi, female, long-haired beauty, is amazing, her career line can be seen under her Q version avatar. Before it was too late to slander his teammates, the plot began. The door was suddenly pushed open, and a chubby nurse rushed in, shouting anxiously, Dr. Luo. The ambulance brought a very serious patient. His throat was bitten. He was bleeding profusely. He has already lost consciousness. Bitten by someone. Luo Shu extracted keywords from the nurse's words in an instant. Then, almost reflexively, he thought of a hot word. Zombies. Luo Shu likes watching movies, especially horror movies. Regardless of the good or bad, he has watched horror movies. He likes to memorize these things. If you add the movie clips of watching a movie in 5 minutes, then he has seen at least 1,000 horror movies. Zombie films play an important role in this category. Luo Shu couldn't help thinking, if it's really a zombie, should he rush out now? What is the task? Why is there no task? If you don't give a mission, it means the plot has not officially started, so it should not be dangerous, but it doesn't rule out the disgusting possibility of killing at the beginning, or be careful. The nurse at the door saw him wondering what he was thinking with his eyes squinted, and felt baffled. Dr. Luo. What are you thinking about? Come on, it's an emergency. Luo Shu made up his mind, I'll come as soon as I get ready, you go out first. Although she didn't know what Dr. Luo was doing today, she still respected the doctor, so she nodded anxiously and closed the door. Dr. Luo, hurry up. After she went out, Luo Shu first looked down at his nameplate. Emergency doctor. It really is role-playing again. On the nameplate, you can often see many things. For example, is this world a world you are familiar with, and where is this place? He just felt that the nurse's accent was weird, and he liked to mix English and Chinese in his speech. On the nameplate it says, Isanoa Hospital, Emergency Room Physician, Luo Shu. Luo Shu searched in his memory palace. Search results. 0. Well, there is no time to worry about where this is, let's solve the immediate problem first. Luo Shu wandered around the office, looking for some protective equipment. 30 seconds later, the chubby nurse couldn't help but pushed open the door again. Dr. Luo, hurry up. Just about to urge, the nurse forgot what she was going to say the moment she saw Luo Shu. She stared at Luo Shu blankly for a moment, then said, Dr. Luo, what are you doing? I saw Luo Shu sitting on the multifunctional mobile bed, wrapping the medical bandages around his arms, and then trying to tear them apart with his teeth. This attempt was not very smooth. Being questioned suddenly, Luo Shu paused. What am I doing? I took basic protective measures at that time. In case the patient outside would turn into a dead body immediately, it would be a bite, and it would be infected at the beginning, so you don't need to play later. The parts that are easy to be bitten, of course, need to be strengthened in advance. But this reason, based entirely on speculation, naturally cannot be told to the nurse. So Luo Shu thought of an excuse casually, well, that. Recently, my hands often do some excessive exercise, and I have varicose veins. I will use a bandage to compress it. The chubby nurse blinked cutely, her small eyes were full of doubts. This time. The more urgent the situation is, the more you need to keep it in perfect condition. Luo Shu showed a bright smile, showing shining white teeth, and gave a thumbs up. Nurse. Luo Shu stretched out his hand. Well, can you pass me the scissors? The nurse walked in with a confused face, took out a pair of medical scissors from the drawer, and handed it over. Luo Shu cut off the bandage and continued to work. Even if you have varicose veins on your arm. The nurse looked at Luo Shu's strange behavior and couldn't help it. Then why did you tie a bandage around your neck? Luo Shu has quickly wrapped the bandage around his neck 5 times without stopping. Hey, are you wondering why it's so cold all of a sudden? In order to keep the body temperature from losing, in the best condition, in the face of the most urgent situation, it is reasonable and logical for me to replace the scarf with a bandage. The nurse was completely stunned and couldn't say a word of rebuttal. This reason is so absurd that it cannot be refuted. Luo Shu wrapped her neck and pushed her out again. It'll be ready soon. Don't worry, I'll come out with a flashlight. Hey, Luo. Just as the nurse came to her senses and turned to speak, she was pushed out and the door slammed shut. She spun around outside in a hurry, waited for a while, and couldn't help but push the door again. The door opened. Luo. The nurse was about to speak, but swallowed in shock. If he hadn't come out of this door, the nurse wouldn't have been able to tell that it was Dr. Luo himself. The person in front of him was wearing a full set of white medical protective clothing, tightly wrapped from head to toe, with a mask inside the transparent mask. Only a pair of eyes were exposed. The nurse is almost going crazy. Silly doctor. Which song are you singing? Why are you wearing a protective suit? Is there a biochemical war going on outside? Luo Shu said in a muffled voice. Are you a spoiler? Nurse. 10,000 question marks almost crushed her fragile heart. Luo Shu didn't bother to explain any more. He had to get down to business. Where's the patient? He asked. The nurse didn't worry about what kind of madness Dr. Luo was going through today, so she turned and walked away, leading the way. Emergency ward. Hurry up. When Luo Shu followed her to the emergency ward, he was very sure that this was not the real country. There are several medical staff in the ward at the moment. The 2 female nurses are Caucasian girls, and the male nurse is dark-skinned, resembling a Viridian from India. There are still 7 patients in the ward, 3 of whom are of the Waiguo race. Each of them, when they saw Luo Shu coming in, had the same expression as the nurse just now. 0. The nurse introduced with a strange expression. He is Dr. Luo. Luo Shu ignored the strange eyes of others, and went straight to the door, in front of the blood-stained, twitching female wounded patient. What's going on? The victim was a small Asian woman. She was obviously unconscious, and half of her body was covered with blood, which must have spurted from the wound on her neck. A male nurse is pressing the wound with gauze, but the blood is still overflowing from the gauze. Luo Shu lifted her eyelids and shone her pupils with a flashlight. Although he is still in his sophomore year, Luo Shu is not ignorant of the basic first aid judgment. When the light of the flashlight was turned on, the woman's pupils barely showed any contraction reaction and seemed to be slowly expanding. There were blood spots on the whites of the eyes. The male nurse came all the way with the ambulance, sweating profusely. She was bitten by a lunatic. According to the police, this lady was inexplicably killed by an overdose at the exit of the subway station at World Trade Center. Bitten by a lunatic. Seriously. Arterial injury. Luo Shu asked. The lunatic was shot. He replied. No, I was arrested by the police. I saw it. I was handcuffed and wanted to bite someone. I really don't know what new product it is. It's terrible. Luo Shu was silent for a moment, feeling that he was close to each other. Cough, cough, cough. The female injured patient has lost consciousness, but she is still coughing up blood, and the blood foam is sprayed everywhere. The nurse said anxiously. Dr. Luo. Luo Shu made a decision. Push it to the ICU, prepare for the operation, and quickly. After Daya said this sentence awe-inspiringly, Luo Shu observed the behavior of the nurses. He didn't know if the emergency doctor here had the authority to directly operate on the injured. It is good. I went to the blood bank, I checked the patient's ID card, the hospital has records, the blood type is AB, and the stock is still sufficient. Dr. Luo, how many CCS do I need? Luo Shu didn't even think about it. 6,000 cc, call the drunk doctor to come over. It seems that the problem is not big. The Caucasian female nurse who spoke fluent Chinese turned around and ran. She is an experienced nurse. As soon as she heard the amount of blood needed for the operation, she knew that the situation was extremely serious. For a girl with this weight, the blood volume in her body is less than 4,000 cc. Need 6,000, surgery may be more or less ill. But she ran 2 steps, stopped again, and turned around inexplicably and asked, Dr. Ma drunk? Who is Chi Lu San? Luo Shu was taken aback. Isn't there a drunk doctor? Caucasian female nurse. No. Luo Shu couldn't help asking. Then who will be in charge of getting drunk later? Who will be in charge of checking the vital signs during the operation? Contrary to what most people think, in the modern medical system, drunk doctors are not just as simple as giving an injection before surgery. Among other things, during the operation, the drunk doctor is the key person to save the patient's life. The white female nurse pointed to her nose. Me. Luo Shu understood that the medical conditions in the immigrant country he was in, which was similar to that of a new home, were far behind that of his own country, and the nurses were also taking on the duties of a drunken doctor. Got it, let's go. Although it is still a bit strange, but human life is at stake, the Caucasian female nurse didn't think too much, and ran away quickly. Luo Shu was about to enter the operating room when the chubby nurse called him back. Dr. Luo. Are you going in like this? Luo Shu, who was wearing a full set of protective clothing, had difficulty turning his head, so he turned to look at her. Is there a rule that you can't wear protective clothing to operate on patients? Fat nurse. Then, that's not true. Luo Shu glanced at the name on the nameplate on her chest. Well, that's fine, Jasmine, don't smear the ink, and the patient with ink smears doesn't need to be rescued. Hurry up, I want to have an operation. Ah, good. The nurse named Jasmine hurriedly followed her, feeling a little headache. Didn't she usually tell her not to call her by her first name? Tay. The moment Luo Shu walked in, Jasmine was slightly taken aback. Although he was wrapped tightly, only a pair of eyes were exposed. But just looking at those eyes, Jasmine clearly felt that he seemed to be smiling. And smile happily. What's so fun about surgery? Of course Luo Shu is happy. He is only a sophomore medical student in the outside world. It may take 10 to 20 years before he can be a surgeon. This is still fast. Soon, all the instruments were connected, and the freshly warmed plasma was delivered, and the infusion began. Under the shadowless light, Luo Shu, who was wearing protective clothing, had no tension at all. Let's get started. The patient twitched all over, and the male nurse managed to hold her down. She threw up. Luo Shu is methodical. Hemostat. Asking the male nurse to take his hand away, Luo Shu immediately held it down. Because of the excessive blood loss, the wound on his neck had changed from bleeding to bleeding, and then precisely clamped the most dangerous artery with a hemostat. Use straps to hold her in place, it's too dangerous to convulse like this. Use more straps. Clean up the vomit and keep the trachea clear. While Luo Shu was busy, he glanced up at the male nurse who was inserting the manual sputum suction device. You put on the mask. The male nurse was taken aback, only then did he notice that his mask had dropped a little while he was busy, exposing his nose. He had never seen Dr. Luo so fierce before. He put it on in a hurry. Okay. I'm sorry, Dr. Luo. Luo Shu lowered his head to work again. Well, pay attention to hygiene and safety. If the zombies are really going to break out, the few people in the operating room are actually very dangerous. Even for Luo Shu, the protection of his hands is still weak. Although he has worn 2 layers of rubber gloves, he may still be bitten. But there is no way, the protection on hand is too much, and I can't perform surgery, so I can only engage in vassals. Under the shadowless lamp, Luo Shu operated fiercely like a tiger. The bleeding stopped and the wound was stitched up. The wounded also died, Luo Shu and 4 others. In the operating room, all 4 of them stopped, looking at the infinitely extending straight line on the electrocardiogram. Luo Shu stopped and did nothing. He was sure that he did not make a mistake, and according to the routine situation of excessive blood loss, she would never have her heart stop beating so quickly. 3 nurses watch him, as quiet as death. Jasmine couldn't help it anymore. Will Dr. Luo not give you another rescue? Cardioversion. Cardioversion, that is, defibrillation of the heart, is often seen in TV and movies. When the electricity is applied, the patient's body will bounce. When Luo Shu was a child, he was very happy to see this rescue process. Luo Shu looked at her. You do it. Jasmine. Huh. She looked at the defibrillator in her hand, then at Luo Shu, and suddenly realized that Luo Shu was suddenly standing very far away. Dr. Luo, what's going on with you today? Luo Shu waved his hand. I'm dizzy, hurry up and save her, it's urgent. Although the injured were tied up, Luo Shu still didn't want to take risks here. Nurse Molly just had to start the defibrillation herself. Bang. Electric. The immobilized body of the female patient trembled violently. No. Come again. Bang. Powered up again. Still no response. Directly increased to 200J. Luo Shu said. Okay. Nurse Jasmine followed suit. Boom. Power up again. No. Bang. Power it up again. Or not. Nurse Jasmine almost gave up. Last shot. Boom. The injured woman suddenly opened her eyes. The blood spots in her pupils have spread. The eyes are full of scarlet. The pupils have shrunk into a black spot. Ah, but her reaction was misunderstood by the nurses. Nurse Jasmine said excitedly, success. She woke up. She came back to life. Alive. Luo Shu stretched out his hand and pointed to the ECG screen. Then why doesn't she have a heartbeat? What? The 3 nurses suddenly turned their heads and were frightened at the same time. The heartbeat chart of the injured patient is clearly still a straight horizontal line. There was no disturbance at all. They turned their heads in horror and looked at the patient, with abnormally pale skin and bloody eyes on the operating table. She was trying her best to stretch her head towards Nurse Jasmine's hand. Her neck was stretched extremely long and her mouth was extremely long. Its appearance is horrifying, like a living dead climbing up from hell. Ah! Jasmine suddenly withdrew her hand as if she had been electrocuted, and her whole body bounced up. Main task: survive for 30 days in Canaan City where the zombie crisis broke out. Sure enough, the mission officially started when the first zombie was witnessed. Luo Shu looked at the female zombie struggling to break free on the operating table, and silently made a judgment. From heartbeat stop to successful transformation, 42 seconds. He has been counting silently. Quite fast. Judging from the survival time given by the task, there are a full 30 days. Combined with the normal setting of zombies, it will definitely not be difficult at the beginning. But if you don't race against time at the beginning and get enough advantageous resources, the difficulty may double every day in the later period. Jasmine was so frightened that she collapsed on the ground, while the other male nurse was terrified, and was about to run out in a stumbling manner. Do not move, Luo Shu mumbled. The male nurse was already grabbing the doorknob, but, she. Luo Shu walked over, pressed his hand, calmed him with his eyes. I'm a doctor, listen to me. Wait a minute, have you ever seen a zombie movie? The male nurse murmured, what? Zombie movie. I haven't seen it. A world without zombie movies. What kind of garbage world? Luo Shu had no choice but to say, then, have you heard of zombies or legends of the living dead? This, heard. The male nurse said in horror. My hometown is suffering, and we have a legend that one day God will send down a judgment day, and Shuji's first letter of disaster is the success of the living dead. Good guy. Luo Shu was completely confused. Suffering from the 10 disasters, isn't it bloody flood, frog plague, lice plague, all the way to the eldest son disaster? Is this world upgraded? How can there be a plague of the living dead so violent? Nurse Jasmine pointed at the screaming zombie. Dr. Luo, you mean, this is a living dead? Luo Shu nodded. Please check, is the lead wire of the electrocardiograph not connected properly? Nurse Jasmine quickly took a look, and then said, go on. No problem. Luo Shu said, that is the living dead. Nurse Jasmine's expression froze. My brain is buzzing. There aren't that many horror films in this world, and there are also those of the living dead, but they haven't formed a zombie system. They were all seeing real zombies for the first time, and the impact could be imagined. Another white female nurse yelled, let's call the police. Luo Shu thought for a while, nodded and said, you can try. There was a wall phone in the operating room. She immediately went to pick up the dial. There's a busy tone on the phone. Hang up, plug in again. Still busy. Can't get through. The line seems to be busy. The nurse shouted. Luo Shu reckoned that there might be chaos outside. He tried his best to make himself appear reliable, and told them calmly, you must be very strange today, I look a little abnormal, and you have to wear such a suit when you enter the operating room for emergency treatment, right? Quote. Several nurses nodded slowly. Then they understood in an instant. Dr. Luo, you know, how do you know? Luo Shu nodded and said, I have some friends in the police station. They told me that a highly contagious virus has spread in Canaan City. In order not to cause panic, they have been concealing the situation. Quote. Several nurses are convinced. Nurse Jasmine hurriedly asked, what kind of virus is this? Will it affect us? We are all not wearing protective clothing. They are too irresponsible. They are just joking about the lives of citizens. What? Luo Shu said solemnly, at present, I don't know much. The virus is most likely to be transmitted through bites. After being bitten by an infected person, normal body functions will stop, the heart will stop beating, and death will occur soon, but the dead will wake up again, and then turn into this bird. He pointed to the female zombie on the bed. Her bloody eyes were wide open, and her teeth rattled. Super fierce. Then what to do? The male nurse panicked. Is it a 100% fatality rate? Do you want to become a living dead? Let's run away. Let's go home. Luo Shu casually said, do you know why the police are busy? Crises have broken out in many places outside, and now the hospital is the safest place. If a zombie crisis breaks out near where you live, it is almost a dead end. At present, only hospitals, schools, important places like police stations will be adequately protected. In my memory, in the movies, when the zombie crisis broke out, the hospital was the first to sink. But, what the hell? Luo Shu needs someone to help her now. Seeing the hesitation of several nurses, Luo Shu added, we have first-hand resources now, we need to understand the situation of this virus. Go put on protective clothing and prepare for the second operation with me. Nurse Jasmine has, always, been a regular emergency nurse. She has worked under Luo Shu all year round and trusts him very much. She was the first to say, okay. I will listen to you. Dr. Luo, NPCs remember that they will be affected by horror games revise. The other two nurses are still hesitating. Luo Shu said sternly, the hospital has regulations. In an emergency, medical staff who insist on working on the job can apply for a 3-fold bonus at the end of the year. How about it? Do you want to do it? Two nurses, a man and a woman, raised their heads immediately. Their eyes flashed. Flashed again. Flashed. Let's do it. The three rushed out quickly, looking for spare protective clothing from the hospital. Luo Shu smiled gratifiedly, and sat beside the female zombie, beating on her forehead, migrant workers, migrant souls, migrant workers are all masters. The female zombie tried to bite him angrily and eagerly, but she couldn't bite him, so she became more and more manic. Ah ah ah. After confirming the zombie crisis, Luo Shu actually has two main choices. While I may still have the foresight, find a place with complete weapons, sufficient food, and few people to hang out, and see how the situation decides the next step. Second, use the existing advantages to find ways to master some useful information. It is very important to understand zombies. In different movies, the setting of zombies is very different. It's actually an easy decision to make. I am a medical student, and the characters in the script are systematically arranged to be doctors here. This obviously makes sense. He believed that the other three teammates must also be placed in the most suitable positions. Each of them needs to use their own characteristics to obtain information fragments from different angles and grasp different differentiated advantages. Finally, when you meet, share your information together. Join forces to master the whole picture of the script world. Unlock the world view. Get a high score to pass the level. Unfortunately, Luo Shu only guessed the intention of the system. Indeed, everyone was placed in the right place. But in this game, not every player will play with their brains. In a bar in Canaan City, Lei Shihu, who was wearing a leather jacket and was bald but with a bushy beard, was about to leave here. Why haven't the missions come out yet? What kind of world is this? Why did you separate your teammates again? This kind of scripted world is the most annoying. On the dance floor, men and women dressed in rustic clothes, in his opinion, were crowded under a more rustic light ball, accompanied by a Chinese DJ dance song that he had never heard before, twisting, twisting, twisting. Lei Shihu, who had no clue, was about to go out. There is only one staircase going up to the emergency exit. On the platform in the middle of the stairs, a Japanese man and a woman are hugging each other intimately and seriously drinking each other's saliva. The single dog Lei Shihu became angry when he saw this, and walked over at a faster speed. As he passed by, he smelled an overly strong perfume on the woman beside him. Achoo! The scent irritated his nasal cavity and made him sneeze. Rubbing his nose, he walked up a few more steps. Lei Shihu stopped suddenly, turned his head, and looked down at the deep corridor below. Next, the earthy and explosive dance music came. In the corridor, apart from the strange strong fragrance of women, there is also the smell of alcohol. Lei Shihu thought for a while, and then walked on again. If you come, you will be safe, let's talk about a few glasses of wine first. Then he passed by the two who were kissing for the second time. Successfully ignored important clues. After going down, sitting at the bar, he touched his pocket, which contained his ID card here, and dozens of banknotes that he had never seen before. Lei Shihu said to the bartender, "Give me a glass of wine that a real man drinks." The bartender glanced at him, and quickly mixed a glass of rich wine. "A glass of Dead Corpse Disco, 20 yuan, thank you." Lei Shihu smiled. "The name of this wine is good, and the price is quite low." Then hand over the $20 bill. After drinking it for a while, the taste is okay, a little spicy, he likes spicy. Lei Shihu's job in life is to be a bar handjob. He can play with his advantages, but he has a lot of disadvantages. The key is his gluttony. He was drinking here, watching little Niu dance, waiting for the plot to trigger. Soldiers come to block water and cover with earth, this is his style of play. After finishing drinking, another glass was added. A man sat next to him, with a strong scent of women's perfume on his body. Lei Shihu glanced back, it was the one at the top of the stairs just now. "An A50 cocktail, thank you," he said. This handsome young man looked to be only 20 years old. After ordering the wine, he grinned and touched his lips, there was blood from the bite. Lei Shihu laughed and teased, "Your girl is quite aggressive. Are you so ruthless?" Hearing that, the guy turned around and smiled awkwardly. He looked a little young, but he didn't seem like a person who would be affectionate in public. Yes. The bite is quite painful. Although Lei Shihu's brain is not very good, but his intuition is very strong. The instincts of the beast. He looked at this guy and felt that something was wrong. Moreover, Lei Shihu has also mixed into IV4 no matter what, and he still knows a little about the plot triggering of horror games. "Is that girl just now your girlfriend?" he asked. The young man shook his head and smiled shyly. No, I just met in the bar, it's a good match." "Hee hee," I just laughed. "You're A50, 32 yuan. The bartender pushed over a glass of wine with a pink gradient, and half a strawberry was dotted on the glass. The young man took out banknotes and coins from his pocket and pushed them together. It seems that mobile payment is not popular here. He wiped his chapped lips again, picked up his wine glass, and took a big sip. He seemed to be choking. Cough cough. Cough, cough cough. Lei Shihu looked more and more wrong. Hey, brother, drink slowly. Are you okay? The young man waved his hand. It's all right, I just choked, it's all right. Lei Shihu saw him raise his head. His eyes were already blood red. He was startled, and stood up abruptly. The young man didn't know it himself, he just felt dry and hot all over, his mouth was dry, and he felt very uncomfortable. He picked up the wine glass, raised his neck and drank it. After drinking, he still felt unbearable dry cough. He lowered his head, twisted his neck, and his bones clicked strangely. Bartender, one more, have another glass, okay, thirsty. The bar gave him a strange look. He had seen quite a few of this kind of wine mungza who had a poor capacity for drinking and liked to drink. But make money, so I adjusted another cup and passed a stack of peanuts by the way. You can't drink enough, don't drink, eat some peanuts, don't get drunk and throw up. The boy's expression is not right now. It seems that the blood on the whole face is concentrated in the pupils, and the eyes are blood red. With trembling hands, he picked up the wine glass and put his lips together. This cup of wine with a gradient of pink, the more he drank it, the thicker it became, and it became more and more bright red. Viscous nosebleeds flowed from his nostrils, dripping continuously into the wine, but he didn't notice it at all, holding the wine glass like an epilepsy, and gulped it down. Lei Shihu silently walked away a few steps and stood by the bar. The only bartender in the bar was turning around to wipe the glass, didn't look at him, and was still babbling. Let me tell you, it looks like you don't come here often, but in fact, you must not drink so much, my sister, you have to drink slowly, savor carefully, and focus on posing. ... What should you do if you get drunk with 2 glasses of wine at once? Sigh. No experience. Also, the car keys have to be placed on the table. If you don't have them, you can rent them, I'll introduce you to a friend. The boy staggered to his feet, unable to stand still. He wanted to help the bar, but the small porcelain bowl and glass forest containing the peanuts were all thrown to the ground. It shatters with a bang. I couldn't support myself and fell to the ground. Then the bartender turned around. Oh, brother, which song are you singing? He hurried out, looked at the young man lying on the ground, spitting out his mouth, and said with disgust, if you can't drink it, don't drink it. What kind of wolf with a big tail are you pretending to be? Lei Shihu observed the situation, but couldn't figure out how the script world unfolded this time, so he said cautiously, how about, call an ambulance? The bartender was a bit sissy, with her hips on her waist. Why call an ambulance, there are such rotten drunks every day. Hey, I'm going to work alone tonight, buddy, can you help us? Throw him out together. Lei Shihu thought for a while, and this buddy is probably the key NPC that triggers the plot, so he agreed, okay, you're on top of me. Okay. Then the bar was over the head, holding the young man's armpits with both hands. Lei Shihu pulled his legs up and was about to walk to the back door. None of them found out. The boy is dead now. His heart stopped beating, the blood no longer flowed, and the neuron synapses in the brain completely extinguished after a violent abnormal discharge, just like the universe annihilated in an instant. Borrow it, borrow it. They carried a dead man through the crowded dance floor crowd, and finally reached the door. The bartender said, come on, let's put it on, I'll open the door. Why is this dead man so drunk that he can't move? He's so dead. After putting him down, he still didn't move at all. Lei Shihu's premonition grew stronger and stronger. He felt that this buddy might be dead. There was a U-shaped iron lock on the back door, and the bartender took out the key from his pocket and was unlocking it. Lei Shihu stretched out his hand carefully, sniffing. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Lei Shihu's eyes widened. What happened? What happened just now? How did he die? Was it the 2 glasses of wine? Or the woman? Lei Shihu looked suspiciously at the bartender who was opening the door. What do you mean? A crime-solving task. Then he turned his head to look at the ground. Alive, Not dead. Lei Shihu saw in astonishment that the young man was slowly crawling forward, and seemed to be muttering some incomprehensible drunken words. He suddenly grabbed the bartender's ankle and yanked it, mumbling something. The bartender was taken aback, dropped the key on the ground, turned around and cursed. "What's wrong with you, drunkard? Scared my mother to death." Lei Shihu couldn't help but sized up the sissy, confirming that he was a man. The boy on the ground, without making a sound, fell silent suddenly. The bartender raised his foot, but did not break free. He lifted it up again. "Go away." The boy suddenly pulled violently. "Ah, no nuo jiao." The bartender was caught off guard and was dragged to the ground. Then, the guy rushed forward with lightning speed, and bit the bartender's throat with a precise bite. Poof! Blood spouts. Lei Shihu even heard the sound of the trachea being crushed. Zombies. The bar here is a bit like the style of 10 years ago, the audio equipment is average, and the sound is not particularly loud, so Lei Shihu's roar directly stopped the audience. Including the DJ on the stage, they all turned their heads to look at the position of the back door. There they saw a man, lying on top of another, not knowing what he was doing, making some strange noises. The zombie boy who had just transformed seemed a little unaccustomed to the sudden silence of the environment. He stopped what he was doing and turned around in a half squat. On the ground, the bartender's eyes were wide open, blood was still gurgling from his throat, and he was dying. Lei Shihu frowned tightly, and finally saw the young man's face at this moment. His face was as white as if it had been painted, black veins popped out on his forehead and neck, and his eyes were blood red. Sometimes it's so magical, the facial features have not changed, and he still looks like a human being, but it is obvious that the soul is gone, and he no longer has a human breath. Lei Shihu also got a prompt from the system. Main task: Canaan City where the zombie crisis broke out. Survive for 30 days. Lei Shihu cursed inwardly. This time, you have to survive for 30 days. With these disgusting zombies. In front of him, the zombie looked at Lei Shihu who was close at hand, his throat was throbbing with hunger. Then suddenly jumped over. What? Lei Shihu himself was a tough guy, so he wouldn't say he was afraid of zombies, but he was frightened by the zombies' speed far exceeding ordinary people. He turned his body slightly, and suddenly punched it. Name. Explosive fist. Type. Skill, boxing. Special effects. The moment the fist hits the target, a directional blast will be generated, and the high-temperature flame and impact blast generated during the explosion will kill. Injury. Strong. Consumption. Each punch consumes 300 points of stamina and 100 points of health. Learning conditions. Level D in the fighting field. Remarks. This boxing method comes from a long-armed man with thick eyeshadow on his eyes. He hurts the enemy 1000 and hurts himself 100. Forget it, there is nothing to introduce, it's just a miscellaneous fish boxing 1. Although the remark looks very weak, but this is Lei Shihu's most practical skill, the consumption is not high, and each script world can be used many times. Different players have different points for upgrading and adding points. Lei Shihu is more inclined to fight, and both physical strength and health recover faster. In the script world of low martial arts and low magic, it is already strong enough. His casserole-sized fist hit the zombie's side cheek. Boom! A ball of flame exploded forward. After this guy transformed into a zombie, his agility was obviously stronger than that of a human, but he still couldn't escape Lei Shihu's fist. He is a C-level player in the fighting field. It exploded with one punch. The whole head of the zombie exploded. From the neck up, it was burnt black, and it was completely finished, smoking and falling to the ground. Lei Shihu's fist was also smoking, and this skill also caused damage to himself. He made a handsome face in a very low way, and blew on his fist. Oh! Miscellaneous fish. However, Lei Shihu, who showed off his skills, obviously ignored the external environment. When he was about to turn his head and leave, he suddenly found that the whole bar, hundreds of people on the dance floor were looking at him with the eyes of a monster. Lei Shihu also realized the problem. This is a city with many NPCs, and troubles. Looks like I got into trouble. He was not an intellectual player at all, and he was stared at and became angry. Look at him. He is a zombie. Don't you know him? Haven't you seen a movie? The circle killed Morny. A woman screams in terror. Some people have turned and ran out. The other people on the dance floor who did not leave looked at Lei Shihu vigilantly, and slowly backed away, leaving a large space in front of him. Only then did they see clearly that there was a bartender who died tragically on the ground. From most people's point of view, they didn't see the zombie's movements clearly just now, and they didn't even have time to see the zombie's face clearly. They only saw this bald man with a beard and a beard punching his hand with 10 punches. Bouncing effect. There are only 4 words in everyone's mind. Fear, no, divide, son. Lei Shihu noticed that someone secretly took out an old-fashioned brick mobile phone and took a picture of him. Turn off the flash for sneak shots. With his keen hearing, he could still hear many people squatting in the crowd, calling the police in low voices. What kind of world is this? What country? Don't you know how to protect yourself? Dare to call the police. Most people didn't get through. The police station in Canaan City is extremely busy today. But there are enough people to fight, so there is still a way to get through. With such an opening situation, Lei Shihu was so angry that he even wanted to rush up and kill a few NPCs. But just thinking about it, he can bear it. Killing innocent people in the script world may also deduct points. Some players' self-summarized experience is not reliable, and low scores may be just. Fengyuan. There was another exclamation on the dance floor. Inside, a girl wearing glasses suddenly collapsed with convulsions all over, vomiting continuously in her mouth. It appears that there is more than one infection here. Lei Shihu's face was ugly. Recalling what might happen next in the zombie movie, he decided not to spend his time here. If it is a country with normal outside world, if this happens, everyone should run away. But here, most of the people did not run away, but actively tried to find a way to help them. Those who called the police, and those who called an ambulance called an ambulance. Lei Shihu ran quickly to the exit alone, thinking. In such an enthusiastic and civilized model city, the zombie crisis broke out the fastest. All must die. No one dared to stop him. He went up the stairs and ran out of the bar. Outside the bar, bustling. This is a set of quaint food streets, like a tourist attraction that retains the ancient architectural style. There are Xiaoguo and Song Dynasty-style buildings all around, white walls and gray tiles with lattice doors, no neon lights at the entrance of the store, the name of the store is written on the plaque, and various beautiful ancient lanterns are hung at the entrance. There are many tourists coming and going, of all races. There are many white or black girls, all wearing Xiaoguo's hanfu or cheongsam, eating snacks and taking pictures with oil paper umbrellas, adding to the lively late-night snack street. The scenery is very eye-catching. Lei Shihu scratched his head, looking at the distant skyline in confusion. There are many high-rise buildings not far away, like the CBD of the city. Combined with the ancient snack street around you, it is really a magical experience. He complained. What the hell place? A few policemen patrolling late at night came from among the tourists, and they muttered, "What's the situation? They're all on duty. Why are there so many biting lunatics suddenly appearing? Rabies? I don't know, let's see what's going on here first. They say there are terrorists. When did this kind of people come to our country? It's probably a mistake. They happened to be patrolling nearby, received deployment, and came over immediately." The policemen in Canaan City were dressed in black and white diagonal stripe windbreaker uniforms, and they looked as handsome as fashion models. When Lei Shihu just walked out, he didn't realize that these two were policemen, but when he heard what they said, he turned around decisively and walked away slowly, pretending to be unrelated people passing by. In the bar, several people rushed out. They saw Lei Shihu's back. "Officer. It's him. He killed 2 people in the bar." Lei Shihu gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and clenched his fists. "I really want to kill you." Both policemen are a little dizzy. Murder. Return to. But when they saw those people sweating profusely, they took out their stun guns vigilantly. "Sir, please cooperate with us to adjust." Lei Shihu suddenly started running wildly. The 2 policemen were startled and fired at the same time. It's just that the stun guns they were equipped with had a very short range, and the electrode bullets dragging the wires fell to the ground as soon as they were shot out. "Don't run." It was the first time for the 2 policemen to encounter such a vicious annoyance, and they quickly chased after them, holding down the walkie-talkie while chasing. Police number JN 1193. The Space G bar received a homicide. The target criminal is a bald man in a leather jacket. Height 176 to 178. Ask for support. 2 policemen chased after him. At the entrance of the Space G bar, a few ragged and blood-stained people came out slowly. Most of their faces were mutilated and ugly from being bitten. Their scarlet eyes looked around cautiously. A group of foreign beauties tourists came out of a restaurant opposite, just saw these people, and surrounded them excitedly. Is today Halloween? Wow, your costumes are so realistic. The ugly and disgusting zombies looked at the clean and beautiful girls in front of them. The ultimate contrast foreshadows extreme gore. The zombie at the front grabbed a girl's head without hesitation, and then bit her down. Like biting into a juicy and sweet peach. Ah ah ah. The girls next to me suddenly screamed. Enthusiastic tourists around, seeing the sudden situation here, gathered around curiously and puzzled, and someone asked in English, "Hey, do you need help?" After they saw the situation clearly, it was too late to escape. In the bar, a steady stream of zombies ran out, pounced on these fresh food. Shouting in panic and the sound of flesh being torn apart, the wave of death gradually spread to the entire food street. The tourists discovered the strange situation, and most of them began to prepare to flee. However, the food street is narrow and densely populated, and the tourists who want to run inside are completely blocked when they encounter tourists who come in to watch the excitement without knowing the surrounding area. And those zombies. They are nothing like the slow-moving undead in the early zombie movies, they are more like sharp and ferocious wolves. Food Street, for them at this moment, is really full of moving fresh food. A gluttonous feast is about to begin. They chased both sides of the road, and rushed towards the crowd. Hunting and killing their former kind. Ah, killing, police, help me. Translation. Oh, I'm dead. God bless the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, please, Run outside. Don't squeeze over. The big 2 kill inside. 2 kill. The zombie's unidentified grunt. Crack, blah, blah, zombie chewing sound. Sound of blood gushing. Bang, sound of head smashing. The red lantern in front of the store swayed slightly, sprayed with hot blood, and the red became more and more vivid. The world is filthy, it is better to look up at the sky. A half moon and a sky full of stars. The night is still so beautiful. On Lei Shihu's side, it was actually a mess. He has a great first mover advantage, but he spends his time running away, he is parkouring on the street and is being chased by the police. Of course, not everyone is as muscular and simple-minded as Lei Shihu. Not long ago, a certain hypermarket in Canaan City. Fruit and vegetable area. Under the pale fluorescent light, an ant wearing the overalls of a tally worker in a hypermarket was lying on the belly of another old lady, taking out her intestines, and feasting. Zhao Kaixing, wearing the general manager's suit and uniform, stood by and watched coldly. A task prompt popped up in front of him. Main task: survive for 30 days in Canaan City where the zombie crisis broke out. Zombie Crisis, the most hated plasma movie, oh. He sighed faintly. In reality, Zhao Kaixing is a helpless middle school Chinese teacher. He is more inclined to the world of scripts such as supernatural puzzle solving, which is not so hard. The zombie script is still a 30-day protracted battle, which is obviously very strenuous. Zhao Kaixing's identity in the script world this time is directly the general manager of this hypermarket, and he has a unique advantage. Of course, he is also the one who confirmed the appearance of the zombies now. Just want to understand what is the advantage here. Food and water. Plenty of food and water. In the 10 minutes before the zombies appeared, Zhao Kaixing quickly grasped some basic information. He knew it was 10 p.m. The hypermarkets in Canaan City will officially close at 10:30 from 10 p.m. At this point, only foreign tourists and a few elderly people who are greedy for cheap will come to purchase food that is unsaleable in the vegetable and fruit area for a day will be broken and sold. At this moment, the zombie who is enjoying the delicious food is the tally clerk in the vegetable and fruit area. About 10 minutes ago, the tally clerk ant had a quarrel with the old lady. Zhao Kaixing knew that the plot would be triggered, so he watched from the side. The tally clerk seemed to be a little uncomfortable, so he couldn't quarrel with the exhausted old lady at all. After arguing, the tally clerk vomited, and the vomit sprayed the old lady across the face. Immediately afterwards, there was chaos. The tally clerk fell down and stopped breathing. The old lady scolded her, thinking she had been touched, and then the tally clerk woke up, bit the old lady to death, and was still eating. Zhao Kaixing glanced at the people around him. Foreign tourists were taking pictures in astonishment, some were calling the police, and some were calling for an ambulance, but none of them got through. The other employees were terrified and stood aside like wild cats illuminated by headlights. Zhao Kaixing sighed. It seems that there are no useful NPCs, so I can only go up by myself. From the equipment bar, he pulled out a matte and dark sword with a beautiful tassel on the hilt. Name: Zhuge Kongming's 7-star sword. Type: magic weapon. Weapon introduction. Made of extreme northern black iron, the sword is 3 feet and 7 inches long, and the sword body is dark and cold, and the sword spine of the hilt is inlaid with 7 gemstones to inlay the Beidou 7-star pattern. Here it is not a sword for killing enemies in battle, but a magical sword for opening altars. Quality: rare. Special effects. For all spell skills that require a sword to be cast, this sword can be used universally, and an additional 10%, 30% spell damage will be added. Remarks: Zhuge Liang, if you say it's mine, it's mine. I'm a military advisor, not a magician. Zhao Kaixing is thin and small, holding a dark sword, which looks very out of place. The zombie ate half of it, enough for someone to come, then raised its head, bared its bloody teeth, and made the sound of a wild dog protecting its food from its throat. Zhao Kaixing stopped and kept a safe distance. He took out another yellow paper talisman. Name: Dao Fu Binghua. Type: skill consumable. Attribute: ice. Special effects. With the magic sword, it can instantly release the 5-element magic contained in the Taoist talisman. It can form an instant freezing effect in a local area. Injury: strong. Usage method: one-time use. Requirements for use: need to cooperate with the magic sword and spell casting password. Consumption: 100 spiritual power points piece, can be made in advance, and an additional 30 spiritual power points and 100 physical strength points are consumed when used. Remarks: I know this thing is not as good as the Clo card, but the cost is cheap. It can also be mass-produced. If you save enough, maybe you can bring the Earth back to the Ice Age. Seems like a threat. The zombie Taliman ant immediately let go of the old lady's body, and rushed over like a mad dog. Zhao Kaixing's pupils shrink. So fast. Zhao Kaixing put on a posture, pointed like a sword, pinched the Taoist talisman, and raised it. The moment when the Taoist talisman floated in front of his eyes before it fell. Attach the horizontal sword. The Tao talisman is as sharp as iron in an instant. Under his feet, a complex pattern similar to a magic circle appeared in an instant. That is a magic circle with an outer square and an inner circle created by referring to the 8 diagrams and the compass of feng shui. In the center is Taiji Liangyi, and then there is the compass scale. The ancient characters of earth, water, fire, wind, and spring, summer, autumn and winter are dotted up, down, left, and right. The inner 4 corners are heaven, earth, universe, and the outer corners are east, west, south, north. He scolded coldly. Binghua called Qian. Chapter 91. The Tao talisman shines brilliantly in an instant. From it gushes out 2 strands of intertwined icy air. Straight hit the Taliman zombies who were rushing forward. In an instant, the speed of the zombies slowed down. Her exposed skin was soon covered with a thick layer of frost. The joints all over the body seemed to be rusted, and they were getting slower and slower, and when they tried to take a step forward, they also made a creaking sound. Frost spreads rapidly and penetrates. The zombie completely stopped moving and turned into a hideous ice sculpture. If Luo Shu was here, he would definitely praise it, a work of art. But Zhao Kaixing frowned, extremely disgusted, strode up, swung the heavy 7-star sword with both hands, and hit the zombie's neck forcefully. Click! A crack appeared on the neck of the zombie ice sculpture. This Dharma sword is not sharp. Zhao Kaixing tried his best to smash it many times before breaking the zombie's neck and causing its head to fall to the ground. In the supermarket, 2 old men fainted on the spot. The others were a little confused. Only a tall white young man took a few photos with a camera hanging around his neck, and sighed in his mother tongue, "Wow, the mysterious oriental magic." Up to now, there are still many optimistic foreign tourists. They whispered in doubt, thinking that this is a filming or a special performance of Canaan City. Zhao Kaixing got angry when he saw this group of people, turned around and shouted, "Hurry up and get out. Watching a show. How many people are standing here now, and how many zombies he will have to fight later?" 577. But at this time, the large intestine was taken out, and the old lady who ate half of it stood up quietly again. The employee of the hypermarket pointed there in fear. "Manager Zhao, behind you." Zhao Kaixing shook his head annoyedly, took out another Dao talisman, turned around and used Bingwa summons. What? But this time, it went blank. The zombie old lady rushed to the side to take a picture of the tall white young man. The first reaction of the Caucasian young man was to be frightened, but he seemed very courageous. He clenched his fists, swung his posture, and saw the old lady's way to rush towards him, which was a fierce and clever straight punch. During that 1/3 of a second, the head of the old lady zombie tilted slightly, and he punched nothing. The puzzled and shocked expression of the young Caucasian man stayed on his face, and then was thrown down ferociously. The people in the supermarket, whether they are employees or customers who came to shop, started to run away. Zhao Kaixing had no choice but to go there, and consumed another Bingwa Dao talisman, freezing the entangled person and corpse into ice sculptures. Zhao Kaixing made 3 Dao talismans in a row, and consumed a lot of stamina. He was a little tired and wanted to ask for help, but when he looked up, all the employees had already run out. Only do it yourself. After smashing the heads of the 2 of them with the sword again, Zhao Xing was already a little out of breath. He walked to the door. The zombie virus seems to be a local outbreak. Since it's not that I'm in a supermarket, I'll stick to my resource advantage and wait for my teammates to come to me, shall I? But in such a big place, I'm the only one. Although resources can reduce consumption, just blocking the door is exhausting work. If only these employees would come back and help me. He just finished speaking. The tourists and customers who ran out just now are now coming back with a huff. Zhao Kaixing was stunned. What are you doing? They didn't have time to answer. After a group of people poured into the hypermarket, someone shouted, "Close the door. Close the door." Behind them, there were a few slow-running old men, with frightened faces, waving their hands repeatedly, signaling them not to close the door. But they still closed the 2 tempered glass doors at the entrance of the hypermarket. The moment the door closes, boom, a zombie's face appeared from the side and hit the glass door. Ah, everyone inside was shocked. And the few old people outside turned around and wanted to run in the opposite direction. They staggered, and the zombies who appeared from nowhere, all ran like bolt under the street lights. After a few screams, they were surrounded by zombies and they ate together. In the supermarket, a girl covered her mouth, but she couldn't help but poop. Whoa, woo, what the hell happened? What happened to these people? In front of the door, more and more zombies ran over and saw them among them. These, vigorous, and strong, living dead gathered in front of the glass door, slamming and roaring, want to rush in. Zhao Kaixing locked the door first, and said, "Can you get through to the police?" A middle-aged employee of a hypermarket shook his head. "The lines are all busy." Zhao Kaixing ordered, "Keep fighting." Another young employee was pleasantly surprised. "It's done." Zhao Kaixing couldn't be happier. He saw a police car roaring with lights flashing on the street outside. Staggering, getting closer and closer. When the police car approached, he confirmed that the car was out of control, and his eyes widened instantly. "Get out of the way." Then everyone ran to both sides in panic. After a loud noise, the out-of-control police car crashed into the hypermarket. The tempered glass door was shattered. There were 3 customers who didn't run away in time, and now they don't have to run away anymore. Including the one who called the police just now. The door shattered and the hypermarket sirens sounded. Zhao Kaixing approached cautiously, holding the 7-star sword in his hand. The windshield of the police car was shattered, and he saw the policeman in the driver's seat being eaten by the co-pilot. Look at the mess all over the floor, the gate on the first floor that was instantly defeated by an accident, and a group of zombies slowly gathered after hearing the movement in the distance. Zhao Kaixing, who was always carrying it, completely lost his demeanor and shouted hoarsely, "Those who want to survive, go to the 2nd floor. Don't go out. Go out and die. Everyone go to the 2nd floor of the shopping mall." Everyone has nothing to say at this moment. In times of crisis, as long as someone gives orders, people will dare to listen. The customers quickly followed the staff to the escalator. Zhao Kaixing patted his forehead. No. Get some food and water first. Then go up to the second floor. We will completely block the first and second floors. After they heard it, they changed the route and grabbed food on the first floor first. The situation outside is already dire. In the distance, there are continuous gunshots, car horns, and people's screams. Around the hypermarket, more and more zombies gathered, and after seeing the target, they started to run. This scene brought Zhao Kaixing a great sense of oppression. Who can turn off this siren for me? He took out more Dao talismans. The Vulcan summoned. Thunder is calling. Here comes the sword. Most of the dozens of zombies that swarmed were wiped out by Zhao Kaixing's Dao talisman spell in an instant. But he couldn't do it anymore. His physical strength quickly dropped to the warning value, his face was pale, and he walked inside out of breath. Get your food. Everyone, go up. Hee. Block the stairs and elevators. Hold on tight. Wait for rescue. In contrast, Zhao Kaixing is at least a smart man. Without losing the base of the hypermarket, this is the opening gift package given by the system. Zhao Kaixing intends to stay here for as long as time goes on, preferably within 30 days, and complete the task directly. The street outside the hypermarket. Everywhere is killing, eating, dying, summertime. More living dead slowly came out of the shops, from their homes, and took to the streets, looking for the living. Wearing black sea socks with slender legs and a pair of 6 centimeters high heels, she walked gracefully in a long and narrow aisle. Lu Yi, among the few players, was the one who didn't look like a player. In horror games, almost no one will wear a very green TV neck-thin sweater, showing a proud career line. Not to mention black sea socks, mini skirts and high heels. Of course, her appearance and temperament are very suitable for this kind of dress. The hairstyle is slightly curly and wavy, the delicate oval face and a pair of charming fox eyes, and the temperament is almost sharp. In the aisle, 2 city defense soldiers who were chatting saw Lu Yi walking out of the auditorium. They whistled at her. Lu Yi blinked, and made a girl group standard wink. Wow, the 2 soldiers looked like they had been hit by an arrow in their hearts, stumbling around. Lu Yi walked quickly, and the seductive look on her face quickly disappeared. Her acting identity is that she is actually a member of a girl troupe, and she came here for a labor performance. Fortunately, after coming to the script world, it was already the end of the show. The women's team. Lao Jun. When these weird words are added together, she can't help but think of Banksy Kingdom, where the army's combat power is almost majestic. From this point of view, it would be difficult for her to rely on the soldiers of Canaan City. Lu Yi went straight to the second floor. When you go upstairs, the toilet is on the right. Today's Labor Day, the soldiers of the City Defense Force are all happy in the auditorium downstairs, and the lights are not even turned on upstairs. Lu Yi stood at the stairs, in the darkness, and listened for a while. Some movement was heard. In the dark, there seemed to be a few kittens eating. Lu Yi has been in the game for more than an hour. She has experienced the script world many times, but none of the preludes are so long. For a piece of music, the slower the prelude, the more intense the chorus. The surface of the calm, often brewing great danger. She has been paying attention to the abnormalities around her, and finally found one just now. A member of the girl group went to the bathroom 20 minutes ago and never came back. The sound did indeed come from there. Lu Yi walked over. There is no distinction between men and women here, and there is only one public toilet. The chewing sound was very obvious, and there was more than one person inside. Lu Yi took out a revolver with a long barrel from the equipment bar. This is a Colt Python revolver that doesn't match her temperament at all. She quietly pressed the handle, opened the door of the toilet, and glanced inside. 2 zombies wearing uniforms of the Azure City Defense Force were sharing a girl together. The girl who was joking with her and drinking just now was lying on the ground without a sound, her eyes still open. She saw the open door and slowly raised her hand. Seems to be asking for help. But that hand, which was supposed to be soft and beautiful, now has almost only bones left. Lu Yi closed the door. Excuse me. Main task. Survive for 30 days in Canaan City where the zombie crisis broke out. Lu Yi didn't soften her heart and didn't hesitate. She immediately took out the sneakers from the inventory and put them on. The skirt unzipped with a metal buckle and turned into a pair of hot pants. Well, this is a pair of hot pants disguised as a skirt. There is no trust between people. Then she quickly ran downstairs and out of the building. A few soldiers of the defense force were smoking outside after eating and drinking. When they saw her, they greeted her one after another. Hey, why did you come out? What, are you going back? What nonsense. The military activities don't end until early in the morning. Yi, do you want us to show you around? Lu Yi understood the intention of the system to arrange her here, and leaned over tenderly. Okay. Big brother, can I visit your arsenal? Soldiers who have been in peace for a long time are at best just beating workers. The girl group's idle little sister wanted to visit the arsenal, and they didn't think much of it at all. One of them, wearing glasses, looked lewdly at Lu Yi. Yes, I'll take you to visit, but let me tell you that you can only look outside, not inside. Lu Yi smiled coquettishly. Okay, I will keep my promise, just watch outside and never go in. There is something magical about this woman speaking. That is, no matter what she said, people would explode her voice. A few soldiers of the defense team, whose bones were limp all over, drove back and forth on the nasty joke of outside, not in, thinking that Lu Yi couldn't hear it. Afterwards, Lu Yi pretended to understand suddenly, and wanted to leave in embarrassment. They hurriedly stopped her, and showed her the way. If they were in a hurry, they were extremely attentive. Yi, watch out for the steps. Yi, walk slowly, there is a puddle over here. The light here is broken, should I support Yi? Not long after they left, several soldiers from the defense team went to the bathroom on the second floor. A few screams signaled that the armed forces in Canaan City had officially begun to fall. The scariest thing about the zombie virus is not that it spreads quickly, that it works fiercely, or that it is irreversible, but that it is anti-human. With the inertia of human thinking, it is difficult to notice that the relatives, friends, lovers, and comrades in arms who were alive just now have suddenly become man-eating beasts that no relatives or people recognize. Even if he strikes, it won't be too ruthless. This is determined by human nature. But in the face of anti-human viruses such as zombie viruses, it is better to be inhumane. After getting along for a while, Lu Yi has obtained a lot of information. The Urban Defense Force of Canaan City is equivalent to the internal security force of the armed police, mainly maintaining domestic security, and is stationed in the fringes of Canaan City. There are only a few thousand people, but they are the most important armed force in Canaan City and even the whole country. This country is very small, and it is dominated by the financial and entertainment industries. No one cares about it, so it is peaceful. Soldiers are almost a profession of soy sauce, and those who come here are just dawdling, and have never touched a gun, let alone actual combat. Their arsenal was very small, and it was in the front yard of the headquarters compound, at the southeast corner of the parking lot. Lu Yi followed them and glanced at Jun's jeep in the open space. The soldier with glasses smirked and said, "What? I like military vehicles. Do you want me to drive you out for a drive? I'll drive around." Lu Yi's eyes lit up. Really? Is it okay? Aren't you guys disciplined? The glasses soldier smiled and said, "Hey, just say hello, just find a reason. But I don't have the car keys with me. If you want, I'll get them later." Lu Yi glanced at the back. She was too far away to hear the movement over there. I don't know how contagious this zombie virus is. If they didn't kill those two in time, it would be a mess now, right? She said, "Forget it, let's visit the arsenal first." Okay, this is it. This so-called armory looks like a large bicycle shed. There are small long windows outside. Although the glass is dirty, you can still see countless rifles, machine guns, and submachine guns displayed on iron shelves inside. Stacked densely, like a wholesale market. The door was open, and there was an older guard sitting inside, drinking tea and watching TV. Lu Yi leaned over the window and watched, showing the surprise of a little woman. "Wow." Another tall soldier said proudly, "Isn't he handsome? This weapon, Curry's firearms, is enough to equip 2,000 people. And we have 3 of these arsenals." Lu Yi turned around, cooperated with the performance, and finally acted coquettishly. "I want to go in and have a look." "Okay, I've never touched a real gun before." The soldier with a greasy face wondered, "This? No way, according to the regulations, we can't go in casually, we need to apply." Lu Yi looked disappointed. "Ah, so it's so difficult. But the soldier with glasses laughed and said, I want you to touch the gun, you turn around. Would you like to? Ha ha ha. Lu Yi looked at him as if looking at a dead zone. With a cold look in his eyes, he only lasted for a moment, and then he said coquettishly, I hate it. If you do this again, I will leave. The spectacle soldier hurriedly said, don't. I can't think of a way. Don't be angry. Finally, they went to the custodian of the armory for a few words, stuffed 2 packs of cigarettes, and actually took her in. Before entering, Lu Yi had already heard some movements in the courtyard. A trace of sweet bloody smell drifted along the night wind and penetrated into her nostrils. A level 4 player has already surpassed ordinary people in several attributes of her own tendencies, such as her sense of hearing and smell. The soldiers suddenly didn't realize it. Yi, why are you standing there? Come in. Come, touch this big gun. Oh, okay, here we come. Lu Yi hurried in. You're talking dirty again. Ha ha, I didn't. Hey, don't hit me. Ha ha ha. Lu Yi's white and slender fingers like catkins are incomparable to these guns on the rack. It really is a different time and space. There are many guns that I don't recognize. She silently made a selection configuration. Lu Yi specializes in the field of firearms. Of course she has firearms and equipment, but she can't use them casually, and they are all consumed. The guns in the script world are better and the cost of use is low. Where's the ammo? Here, yes. Is there anything else? No, there are only these guns in this arsenal. You don't expect to see planes and tanks here, ha ha ha. Lu Yi didn't speak. She had already heard footsteps coming. The tall soldier said, let's go after watching, let's get the car keys and go for a drive. Others chimed in, it's so late at night, do you want to take yourself for a ride so much? Lu Yi knows exactly what they want to do. Okay, let's go. She smiled sweetly. As soon as they walked out, a black shadow flashed and knocked one down in an instant. Ouch, ouch, ooh, ah, click. The tall soldier's throat was bitten off in an instant. After human beings transform into zombies, they seem to have acquired the instinct of hunting animals in an instant. Bite their throats first. The other 2 seemed to be dumbfounded for an instant, standing there blankly, completely at a loss. There are also lights under the eaves outside the armory. With the dim light, they can clearly see that the eating zombies are also wearing military uniforms. Behind the row of camphor trees in front of the open-air parking lot, there was an eerie low growl, and they saw shadows there, and there were many figures walking. The soldier with glasses is relatively smarter. He reacted, the living dead. They are the living dead who were filmed in horror movies. They eat people. Hurry up. Go in and get the weapon. Another quickly followed. Oh. Good. The old man in charge of the armory pushed his reading glasses, looked away from the TV, and frowned. What's the matter? Hey, how can you take a gun without permission? Do you want to master it? Roar. A few soldiers with sickly pale skin stood outside with their bodies crooked and their faces covered with blood, looking at the old man. What? More and more zombies ran directly into the arsenal. They came looking for light. The soldiers of these 2 defense teams have completely ignored Lu Yi now. They took the rifles they were most familiar with, and loaded the bullets in a hurry, and the zombies had already run to the door. At least a dozen zombies walked into the arsenal, and the old guard had already surrounded several of them. The old man could not be seen, only his legs kicked and kicked. The others all walked towards the 2 of them, and after confirming the target, they instantly turned into a bolt-like run. Roar. Ah. The 2 shot in panic. But they lacked training. The more nervous they were, the more they missed. A box of ammunition was swept out, and only a few hit the bodies of the zombies. And just hit the body, they are not moved at all. The stagnation force of this bullet is a joke. In an instant, several zombies in TN rushed in front of them. Ah! The 2 screamed and backed away, their eyes closed. They waved the rifles in their hands like mallets. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Behind them, crisp and pleasant short bursts sounded. Each burst was 3 rounds, accurate and accurate. The zombies are very fast, but they are divided into front and back. The one who ran in the first fell. The one who ran in the second fell. Each was hit by a bullet in the middle of the forehead. 3 bullets were poured into directly the back of the head was lifted. They fell down one after another. A total of 14 zombies rushed over at such a short distance at a speed far exceeding that of ordinary people, but none of them could take a step over the 2 cowardly soldiers. The 2 of them trembled and opened their eyes, looking at the zombie corpses in front of them in disbelief. First glance. The meaning in the eyes is obvious. What did you do? Isn't it you? Then they both turned around slowly, looking behind them. I saw Lu Yi, the cute and little girl just now, holding a weapon in the most standard gun-holding posture at the moment, holding an AK-47 assault rifle with the worst accuracy in curry. The muzzle was hot, and there was a wisp of gunpowder smoke. They are straight up stupid. Lu Yi's eyes had completely changed, and she pointed her gun at them. Help me move these guns out and put them in the car. The spectacled soldier was in a daze for a moment, but he still shook his head. That won't work. You want to. Lu Yi's muzzle moved down, between his tui. Boom. The man with glasses had no concrete feeling at that time. He was stunned and lowered his head. I glanced at the crotch. There is a lot of purple and red. The severe pain came later, and the man's ultimate despair and pain caused him to tilt his head and pass out directly. Lu Yi turned the gun, and another soldier with a shiny face immediately raised his hands. I'll move. I'll move. Lu Yi pouted at the guns behind her. AK Series, G30, and, is that Sha Guo's Type 95? The soldier turned his head and looked. That's Type 93, it belongs to Sha Guo. Lu Yi realized that the birth time of many guns in this world may have changed, and the names may have been changed, so she simply did not report the name, and said directly, this, and this. I want them all, pack them up for me. By the way, there are bullets, just take 2 boxes. It is good. In Lu Yi's live broadcast room. Ah, it sounds so familiar. I also shop like this in my dream, dog head. Lu Yi is probably a rich woman in reality, right? It's not like going to Chanel 3 times a week can't raise this kind of aura. Isn't someone breaking the news that Lu Yi seems to be a mother-san in a Yi field? No, a bit of a brain. Okay, the mother in the field of they can have such a god-defying marksmanship. Cruel. Egg. A dull pain. I was clicked by AK, and it was completely useless. Ha 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 ha, called you to tease my Yi. Yi is your name. I just like Yi's violent temper. The one who blows up all the stinky men, XX. Lu Yi is also a new player, but because she is a girl and her strength is strong, her popularity is already showing signs of rising. She entered the game earlier than Luo Shu, and also attracted attention earlier. Lu Yi went out, and the soldiers behind her wrapped a lot of rifles in tarpaulins, followed behind her, walked through the door, and the 3 zombies who were eating on the caretaker raised their heads. Lu Yi didn't even look at them. She raised the muzzle of the gun, and the bullet accurately hit her forehead. The AK is very powerful, but it is necessary to ensure that every shot is fired from the front and the back of the head is lifted, and at least 2 bullets must hit the same position each time. The backs of the heads of these zombies were opened one by one, and they died completely. Lu Yi went out, and the greasy soldiers who followed opened their mouths wide open, looking at the zombies. Their jaws couldn't close together as if they were dislocated. Outside, more and more zombies are coming. They walked slowly and crookedly. When there was no target, they were all standard Walking Dead, but once they saw their prey, they ran away in an instant. Ah, pipe quote. In an instant, 5 or 6 zombies like mad dogs rushed over. Lu Yi yelled, "Smash the door glass." Oh, understood. The soldier was in a hurry to take out a gun from the pile, and then smashed the glass with the butt of the gun. AK, burst fire. Bang bang, bang bang, bang bang. Almost every shot was fired, 1 shot at a time. The zombies ran fast, and died fast. They fell in front of her one by one. But due to the large number and fierce rush, the position where they fell was getting closer and closer. Lu Yi frowned, stepped back slightly, and paid attention to both sides at the same time. Keep going. Every gunshot is accompanied by the sound of zombies falling to the ground. Lu Yi's marksmanship is not so good in the outside world. In horror games, the player's own advantages will strengthen a certain field, and the strengthened field will in turn increase the player's advantage. She is not a multi-point development player, but specializes in a firearms field. She has raised this field to C, and has also obtained some passive skill blessings. So a girl with high recoil like AK can use it as accurately as a scalpel. The greasy soldier finally shattered the glass, reached in and opened the door. All right. Lu Yi sat in the driver's seat, and used the secret driving method to directly pull out the live wire and the neutral wire, and touch the two ends together a few times, and it ignited with 2 cracks. Old cars have the benefits of old cars. Lu Yi lamented that she hadn't borrowed a car in this simple way for many years. The greasy soldier threw the wrapped rifle and bullets into the trunk, and was about to get into the car. Several zombies suddenly appeared from the side and rear. Several bloody hands grabbed him at the same time. Yi, help me. After only holding on for a moment, he let go and was dragged down. Lu Yi glanced at it, closed the car door smoothly, and started to reverse the car. The military jeep nimbly turned around amidst the swarming corpses, and then kicked the accelerator down. Accelerated quickly. It knocked into the air a few zombies rushing forward. Drive all the way, accelerate all the way, crash all the way. Finally knocked out the city guard's retractable doors. The jeep drove onto the open avenue outside. She touched the rearview mirror, and watched the zombies chasing madly behind being used farther and farther away. Then she breathed a sigh of relief and adjusted the seat. He turned his head and looked at the guns and ammunition he got, and smiled contentedly. Teammates, I've tried my best. I've come to you with ammunition. Try to hold on, otherwise. The corner of her mouth curled up. I can only pass the level alone. Hospital, operating room. Nurse Jasmine and the others each had a vomit bag, and they had already vomited too much. In the operating room, there was a strange sour smell. Dr. Luo, Nurse Jasmine cried, what are you trying to do? The male nurse spat and said, you can do whatever you want, let's get out. I really can't stand it. The white female nurse squatted in the corner, facing the wall, and spit quietly. She didn't want to see anything on the operating table. Luo Shu also stopped his hands. He mainly did a pain test for the zombies during this period of time. He has his own ideas. It's just that the zombies on the operating table don't look very good now. Her abdominal cavity was completely opened, and almost all internal organs were taken out. The female zombie didn't feel any pain at all. It just stared fiercely at Luo Shu, baring her teeth and growling. Luo Shu touched his chin and thought for a while, I'm going to do a higher level pain test next time, so you guys go outside and wait, don't go far, just at the door. I've told you about the stakes. Keep an eye on the outside, and report any situation. The three walked out decisively, weeping with gratitude. When they got outside, the three of them felt a little better. But they didn't understand why Luo Shu insisted on doing pain tests. The male nurse leaned against the door. The living dead don't feel pain at all. It's obvious. The Caucasian female nurse agreed with a bitter face. Yeah, Dr. Luo, what the hell? I think he just wants to cut something. Nurse Jasmine shook her head. Who knows, but there is no result anyway. But they've only just gone east. The zombies in the operating room were still howling angrily just now, but after a while, something went wrong. Who? Ah. The frequency of the sound became higher and higher, and finally it even turned into a dog barking, "Owu." The three looked at each other in blank dismay, and at the same time looked back at the door of the operating room. Inside, the zombies screamed more and more, almost horrific. That's a living dead person who doesn't even make a sound when his internal organs are emptied. In the end, what happened? In the operating room, what Luo Shu did was actually very simple. Previously, no matter what he did to this zombie lady, he used the tools in the hospital and did not use his own equipment. Now, he uses Tang Dao. Tang Dao after consecration. Name: Alloy Tang knife forged by modern technology. Status: consecrated. Attribute: Buddha light. Special effects: this is the highest level of restraint against shadowy ghosts and dark life, and the damage caused will go straight to the soul. Remarks: Lao Tzu's left hand is Tathagata and his right hand is a saber, hacking all the way from Wangquan East Road to the Yinsao de Fu. 10,000. Evil. Back. Avoid. There is a warm white light on the blade of Tang Dao. Luo Shu gently handed it over, let the sword penetrate into the zombie lady's thigh, and then gently rotated and stirred. At that moment, like fertile soup meeting snow, the warm white light in the eyes of humans, on the flesh and blood of the zombies that have lost their vitality, is like high concentration sulfuric acid, making it melt instantly. For the first time, a second expression other than fierceness appeared on the face of the zombie lady. Pain. Then came the horror. She looked at the knife in horror, twisting her body frantically. Luo Shu changed his position and stabbed in again. Ah. Just like that, Luo Shu used the consecrated tang knife to beat the zombie up and down, torturing the corpse until it was bruised. As for the zombies, wonderful changes also occurred. She became very weak and her face was full of fear. Because of missing the haul. Interesting. Luo Shu boldly reached out to lift the chin of the female zombie, but she only dared to dodge and dare not bite him. Squeezing her chin tightly, Luo Shu moved closer to her face and looked straight into the zombie's eyes. Woman. I still like your unruly look just now. You have let me down so much now. In Luo Shu's live broadcast room, barrage flooded in. These familiar lines. Could it be that you are playing the domineering president and his little wife? This brother, what is he doing? Crazy. Aren't you afraid of zombies biting him? Killing him? Are you new here? This is Luo Shu's style. Well, pinching the little chin of a zombie and playing the role of a domineering president. Luo Shu is right. He is not so good at flirting with normal women. As the first fan of Boss Shira, I remember that his attitude towards female players was to trick her into drinking the water soaked in the eyes of dead people, let her go to the toilet, and draw out the mouth of the female ghost in the toilet. ? Is this something humans can do? Why did the remarks on this knife change? When will he be able to open it? I came from Lu, and I have to say that Zio seems to have a different style of painting from his teammates. Yes, it is clearly the same script world. Others are being chased away by zombies, and he is playing hooligans with zombies. Lu Yi, Zhao Kaixing, Lei Shihu, I've watched them all. It's just like watching serious horror movies. It's very exciting and nervous. Luo Shu's sighed. I just feel sorry for Big J. Why is this female zombie? The reason why Luo Shu took the small test so calmly was because he knew that this script world was just a chance for him to rest. He has a weapon called Brainstem Scalpel, which is specially used to restrain zombies. Luo Shu had imagined that he could find a 5-star hotel, spend 30 days comfortably, go out to the convenience store opposite to buy some food when he was hungry, and if he encountered zombies on the road, he could just kill them, as long as he didn't face the overly exaggerated corpse wave. In the case of him possessing absolute restraint weapons, this script world is just a vacation. Of course, that would be boring. Luo Shu intends to skip the step of survival, and directly start to decipher the world view, to find the things behind the zombies. That's the key to getting a high score. Sometimes, before learning to walk, you must first learn to fly. Luo Shu took off his protective clothing directly and took a deep breath. Regarding the zombies here, he has a guess, and he is almost convinced. The only thing left is the final proof. At this time, the door was suddenly opened, and 3 nurses rushed in together. Nurse Jasmine shouted in panic, Dr. Chuan. The emergency room. There are a lot of zombies. The male nurse danced in fright. Hurry up, hurry up. Run, let's run. The white female nurse closed the door, locked it, and then backed away with a look of despair on her face. It's too late. There are already all those things outside. Luo Shu ignored them and was looking for something under the instrument table. Nurse Jasmine asked suspiciously, Dr. Luo, are you deaf? The other 2 also felt that Luo Shu was too calm, as if he didn't hear them. While searching, Luo Shu asked, are there no blood collection needles and vacuum tubes in the operating room? Nurse Jasmine wiped away the frightened tears on her face. Well, the blood collection needle is missing, it's a vacuum. She went straight over, helped Luo Shu find it from the instrument table, and handed it to him. Aha, thank you. Luo Shu took over the vacuum tube on his own, and directly took the large syringe for anesthesia instead of the blood collection needle. At this moment, there was already a lot of movement outside, the running and shouting of the living, the crying and weeping, the roaring and chasing of the dead, and the sound of eating and drinking, all of which entered my ears. Small operating room. Because of a small boat in a storm, it will sink in a blink of an eye. But the scene is so weird. A female zombie whose belly had been ripped apart and her internal organs emptied, lay there as if she had been played with or broken, without struggling or screaming. Her eyes were sad and desolate. The surgeon who did this kind of thing walked over gently and said to the zombie, "Don't move, I will draw some more blood for you now, and you can sleep right away." The needle was inserted into the vein, and at least 100 cc of blood was withdrawn, which was then injected into several vacuum tubes. After smoking, he even touched the zombie's head. "It's so good." The three nurses stared blankly at all this. "I just feel that it is even more absurd than the existence and appearance of zombies." Luo Shu glanced at the introduction that popped up in the inventory. Name: a tube of zombie blood. Type: drama related. Description: what's in the blood? Take a closer look and see what's in it. Whether the script can be brought out. Number. Remarks: you don't want to drink it, do you? Seeing that provocative note, Luo Shu shook the hands holding these vacuum tubes, feeling a little impulsive. Pick up the vacuum tube filled with coagulated black blood, and bring it to his mouth. Hiss. The hearts of the three bystanders were lifted into the air at the same time. Then Luo Shu thought about it, and put it in the outer pocket of his white coat. Ha! The hearts of the three bystanders were put back in their stomachs. They didn't know what Dr. Luo wanted to do, they just thought he was a little abnormal. Luo Shu walked back in front of the female zombie, took out the brainstem scalpel, and looked down at the growth giant. The four eyes are facing each other. The fear in the eyes of the female zombie made him see a trace of the remaining beauty of humanity. He said, "I forgive your sins." Slash across with a knife. When the brainstem scalpel was drawn near the zombie's head, Luo Shu saw a judgment area glowing with a pale yellow warm light. The judgment takes effect and triggers special weapon effects. Special effects. After determining the range, as long as you wave it within the range, it can penetrate all physical obstacles, and 100% accurately remove the zombie's brainstem, making it incapacitated. With a snap, a soft object fell to the ground. That's the zombie's brainstem. Her eyes lost their luster, and she was completely still. Luo Shu frowned. "I lost the ability to move. Is it just the loss of the ability to move? Could it be?" He used the open scalpel again to cut off the zombie's arm. It began to melt there, making a stabbing sound. Could it be? The zombies are not dead. They are just paralyzed. Combined with his guess about zombies just now, Luo Shu seems to have triggered something, and the picture in front of him began to blur and flicker. Exception source code. After flickering, the scene in front of me stabilized again. Luo Shu saw one more thing. He saw a vague phantom on the operating table, lying in the disemboweled body. She was screaming silently and struggling crazily, but she was firmly locked in the long-dead stinky bag, unable to break free. She seemed to feel something. Turning his head slowly, he looked at Luo Shu sadly and desperately. Opening and closing the mouth, it seems to be saying 3 words over and over again. Luo Shu looked at it seriously. She was saying, "Kill me." From the appearance, this should be the soul of the woman. Luo Shu has a compassionate heart, and I can't help but be moved by it. He stepped forward. What should I do? Suddenly, Luo Shu frowned, and noticed that there was a very thin pulling thread on the chest of the woman's soul, like a silk thread condensed by the dim light of fireflies. The thread was wobbly. Luo Shu looked up, but saw that the end of the thread had sunk into the ceiling, and he couldn't see any higher place. Luo Shu's first reaction was to go upstairs and look for it. If he saw the end of this thin thread, he might be able to solve the source of the zombie outbreak. But the hint given by the abnormal source code was short-lived. Suddenly, the soul of the woman who was still asking for help was no longer visible. But Luo Shu knew, she was there. Luo Shu only hated his mortal body with naked eyes, and at this moment he could only see the broken body on the operating table. 390. What should I do? What should I do? Where does this line end? Should I go up first, or go to the blood test department as originally planned? Quote. The three nurses have become the background wall. From the moment Luo Shu swung the knife and the zombie shut up, they couldn't understand it at all. Obviously didn't touch it. What happened? At the same time, the outside of the operating room has been turned upside down. A happily running zombie first ran and jumped past the operating room, then smelled something, then walked back suspiciously, sniffing the air continuously, until it reached the door of the operating room. It twitched its nasal cavity, confirming the smell of a stranger inside. What? It roared excitedly, then slammed the door of the operating room with both hands, and at the same time called for its companions to gather. Hearing his high-pitched yelling, other zombies surrounded him, twitched their noses, sniffed them closely, and then shouted excitedly, slapping and hitting the door of the operating room violently. Nurse Jasmine and the others hurried over and put their backs against the violently shaking door. Dr. Luo, let's do it together. Luo Shu waved his hand. Hold on for a while, I'll be fine soon. The three nurses were speechless and could only work together, scolding Luo Shu 100 times in their hearts. Luo Shu asked them to hit the door and do the final test by himself. A zombie whose brainstem has been removed, completely motionless, is the same as dead. For ordinary players, this is enough. But after all, Luo Shu has a high demand for high scores and an obsession with solving the mystery. He poked it a few more times with the tang knife, and the parts he poked made crackling noises and showed traces of melting. And at the same time, he could also feel that the mana contained in Tang Dao was consumed. The soul is anchored in the body. Can I attack her soul now? Is it necessary to completely destroy this body in order to free the soul? Luo Shu always felt that using a knife was too slow, so he thought of a better idea. He took an empty infusion bottle, turned on the tap, and filled a bottle of water. Then tried to use the enlightenment skill on this bottle of water. Name, type, skill, Dharma. Skill introduction. Recite the consecration mantra. With sincerity and sincerity, lightly touch the surface of the thing that needs to be consecrated with both hands, slowly transfer the mana into it, and consecrate it. Cannot be the light of life dii. In short, this skill can be consecrated for everything except creatures. Then try it out. After Luo Shu used the skills, his own spiritual power was transformed into pure Buddhist mana, which slowly entered the water in the bottle. This is a completely different feeling from consecrating a weapon. The capacity of the liquid seems to be larger. After 5 minutes, he consumed 10% of his spiritual power, but he still didn't feel like he was full of mana. As for Jasmine and the others, it was obvious that they could hardly hold on anymore. Pound, pound, pound. The door lock has been cracked. They all use their backs to withstand it, and every impact can make them briefly shake open. Caucasian female nurse cried, I haven't found a boyfriend yet. I haven't enjoyed XX yet. I don't want to die. The male nurse also cried and asked her, if you survive this time, can you watch me? The female nurse looked at him with tears in her eyes, continued crying to the sky, and began to repeat, I haven't found a boyfriend yet. I haven't. Luo Shu's peaceful image is in 2 different parallel worlds with them. He just stopped the process of consecrating the bottle of water, walked to the operating table, and poured the half-opened water down, falling on the mutilated body of the zombie. The sound of stabbing sounded again, this time continuously. Sure enough, an ordinary bottle of water, after being consecrated, has the effect of holy water. Zombies melt quickly. The effect of this water is like chemical powder. The merciful Luo Shu breathed a sigh of relief. In this way, your soul will be completely saved. Amitabha, I have done another good deed. The screen in front of me flickers and fluctuates. He saw the woman's soul again. Luo Shu sees. The woman's soul has also begun to melt and dissipate. Her face is distorted at this moment. She screams silently, her eyes are fixed on Luo Shu. The shape of the mouth is exaggerated to say. Luo Shu narrowed his eyes and carefully read the words on his lips. She seems to be saying, Sao Nima, it hurts, stop it. Luo Shu's pouring hand trembled. But then, he comforted himself. I was wrong. She should be saying, great benefactor, goodbye, what's wrong with you? So he tilted the water bottle again with peace of mind, and poured all the consecration holy water down. The woman's soul quickly dissipated, and then, the thin thread on her chest bounced elastically, then was retracted and shrank into the ceiling. Luo Shu was silent. What is this thread, and where does it lead? Immediately afterwards, Luo Shu thought of another possibility. Just now, if I use the sharp weapon of consecration to directly cut the string that pulls the soul, what would happen? Wouldn't it be to use such a rough method to save the undead? Plus. Bang. The door was knocked open by the zombies working together outside. 8 ugly and disgusting zombies poured into the small operating room like a mudslide. Jasmine and the others screamed and retreated, but they were about to die in the mouth of living corpses in an instant. A sharp lancet was handed over, and a virtual slash was made on the head of a zombie in front of him. In an instant, the fierce light disappeared from the eyes of this big corpse brother. He knelt down with a plop, and then fell down slowly. A limp columnar brainstem also fell to the ground. This operation made the other 7 zombies startled slightly. Their zombie brains, which have lost most of their thinking functions, can't figure it out. Why did my little friend suddenly lie down? Didn't he get attacked? While hesitating, the lancet between Luo Shu's fingers fluttered like a butterfly, lightly passing over the heads of one zombie after another. Judgment successful, judgment success. Brain stem scalpel. In this script world, it can be said that you are like a fish in water, like a dragon in the sky. Without causing any trauma, the brain stems of the zombies were directly removed from the body, and their eyes lost their fierce light one after another. Lie down and turn into a real cute well-behaved corpse. Almost in an instant, all 8 were resolved. Not to mention that zombies with poor brains can't understand. The 3 human nurses who still have advanced brain functions can't understand the situation in front of them at all. The male nurse squatted on the ground, trembling, kicked the zombie with his foot. Do not move. Then he put on gloves and pinched a piece of the brainstem. He couldn't see it, so he showed it to Jasmine. What is this? Jasmine is also just a nurse, and she has only seen the appearance of a brainstem in textbooks. She frowned. I don't know, it's just a piece of meat. The white female nurse couldn't help coming over, keeping a distance, and looked at the heads of the zombies. No injury, where did this thing fall out? Then the male nurse yelled again in horror. Ah! They were startled. What are you doing? The male nurse pointed to a mess on the operating table. Why was that zombie melted just now? The 2 female nurses gasped. They looked at Luo Shu again, as if looking at a ghost. Luo Shu stood silently in front of the zombies after showing off his knife skills, and apologized. I'm sorry, I know your souls are bound in this rag, and you can't get out, but I don't have time to deal with you better now. Wait a moment, when I solve the mystery, I will definitely send you to heaven peacefully. 3 nurses shivered behind him. In Luo Shu's eyes, he is full of human feelings and benevolent expressions, but in the eyes of others, he is terrifying. I can't understand the logic of his behavior and language at all. After he finished speaking, he walked out of the operating room on his own. The 3 looked at each other. How to do? Shall we go out too? But Dr. Luo seems scary. Is he human? It's better than dying here. Follow, or not. Outside, Luo Shu turned around and called them, crooked. Can you go away? If you want to survive, follow me and keep up, otherwise I won't spare my energy to take care of you. Not far away, many deep and inhuman roars sounded again. The sound of many footsteps came restlessly. The 3 nurses made a decisive decision. Follow. Come. Like little chicks, they quickly hid behind Luo Shu, curled up together, and looked around nervously. They saw that in the ward of the emergency room, the few patients who were alive and kicking just now had turned into walking corpses, walking slowly and crookedly. Each of their persons has obvious rotten wounds on their necks, faces, abdomens, and limbs that have been bitten and eaten away. Luo Shu walked towards his office calmly. He remembered that there were still a lot of medical adhesive tape in the office. Roar! A big corpse brother with a strong body launched the sprint first. However, as soon as he came within the reach of Luo Shu's slap, his body went limp, like a robot whose power had been turned off, and fell silently and stopped. Flipping the brainstem scalpel with his fingertips, he walked towards the office without squinting. The other zombies obviously couldn't understand the human being's virtue of having no corpses in their eyes, and rushed towards him roaring and shouting. Luo Shu looked at them. The sand value was slightly high, 109%. The zombies here are fast, and after they die, they become stronger, and more agile. Therefore, ordinary humans cannot escape or fight in front of them. But Luo Shu has also been promoted to LV3, compared to his original self, he can clearly feel. Add some direction to your own attributes, which is biased towards attack and agility. This is an automated operation performed by the horror game system based on the player's preferences in the script world. Basically, it is not much different from the current zombie speed, slightly faster. The brainstem scalpel is very short, and it is obviously dangerous to fight multiple zombies that can be infected by scratching the skin. But he still decided to give up the bulky protective clothing and choose to go into battle lightly. Because the protective clothing is only to prevent infection from splashing blood fluid. According to his guess, blood splatter is meaningless, and it can only be infected if it is caught and bitten by a zombie. That being the case, look for stimulation. Ah! Many zombies approached in an instant. 3 nurses shrieked and shrank at the back door. Luo Shu's pupils locked tightly, his SAN value rose again, his brain nerves discharged abnormally, the world in his eyes slowed down, and his own movements became faster. Scalpel, across, plop, kill zombies ×1, sideways, out of the way of a bloody claw. After the 3 value is increased, Luo Shu's dynamic vision has also been greatly improved. This is the first time he intuitively realized this. Do I have the gifted blood of the Uchiha King clan? Do you right round eyes? He even noticed that at the moment of the attack, the sharp nails full of lifeless onychomycosis were slowly stretching out on the hand of the dismembered zombie. Pick up the tip of the knife and skim the judgment area. Thump. Kill zombies ×2. Luo Shu's physical sensitivity today is roughly equivalent to that of a well-trained athlete. Of course, the kind in Europe and Latin America. Don't mention the national football team, it's unlucky. And the nerve response speed. Far, super, human, class. They spent nearly an hour in the operating room. During this hour, patients who were bitten were continuously sent into the emergency building. Without any precautions, 1 zombie is enough to spread the infection, not to mention so many wounded patients carrying the source of infection. Now, all the medical staff and patients in the entire emergency building have become zombies, or are transforming into zombies. These dead heads rushed over one after another to give away their heads. Ah! Roar! Ah! Luo Shu was able to cope with it at the beginning, and it can even be said that he was able to handle it with ease. SAN value 110%, 116%, 118%, 120%. He mobilized every muscle of his body with all his strength, flexibly dodged, and a cold blow was like a knife. There is no blood on the knife, but the brainstem is off the knife. Soon, he actually cleared out all the zombies on the first floor of the emergency room. Beside him, a circle of corpses lay like a trench. He had been counting silently just now and killed a few zombies, but he forgot about the excitement afterwards. Luo Shu's physical strength has dropped to 72%. But he is extremely energetic, and the excited brilliance in his eyes is even a bit scary. The 3 nurses stared blankly at Luo Shu, and applauded slowly in unison. Too strong. Luo Shu panted slightly, proudly raised his head, the scalpel seemed to be integrated into his right hand, he raised his hand, pointing the blade at the knight outside the gate. Who else? Let's go together, I will hit 100 !" As if in response to his flowers, outside the emergency building, there were crowds of people, and the sound of rustling footsteps came faintly. Luo Shu frowned, feeling a little wrong. Congratulations to the player, trigger the hidden mission. Hidden mission, completely incapacitating 100 zombies. Completed 18 100s. You can get the title of achievement after completing it, 100 corpses. The title function can only be used after level 5. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. With the emergence of hidden missions, countless intertwined roars emerged from the darkness outside the emergency building. Countless groups of zombies are swarming in. The entire glass wall of the emergency building, like paper, was smashed open by the wave of zombies. But they couldn't feel the pain from the glass shards, so they rushed in without hesitation. Luo Shu froze for a moment, then turned around. Run. This calm tone made the 3 followers unable to react. Luo Shu said, run. The tide of corpses is coming. They are rushing over with claws and teeth. If the darkness has its shape, maybe it is like this. The 3 suddenly responded. Then they turned and ran into the building. Luo Shu originally wanted to run too, but he suddenly thought of the purpose just now, and turned his head to look at his office. The tide of corpses is close at hand. He gritted his teeth, ran into the office, then slammed the door and locked it. He moved all the desks and cabinets in the office to block the door. Luo Shu has a little idea, perhaps, can really make one hit 100. Where's the tape? Where's the tape? His eyes quickly wandered around the office. Hundreds of zombies poured in from outside, and many of them were wearing police uniforms. It seems that almost all the officials in Canaan City have suffered. For some reason, they only separated out a dozen or so friends to chase the 3 nurses. The other brothers all gathered at the door of the office, and started smashing the door frantically. Kicking the door, scratching the door, gnawing the door. Sawdust from the office door rustled down. The corpses are so powerful. Almost instantly, several planks on the door were broken, and their arms squeezed in one after another, grabbing something randomly. Luo Shu hid aside and tore off the tape with his teeth. It should be fine. Bang bang bang, bang. Under their thunderous offensive, the door panel has been completely cracked. Countless hands stretched in and pushed away the desk and cabinet that were against it. Some zombies couldn't wait any longer, and crawled in from the gap between the desk and the cabinet. The clear knife light flashed from their ugly and dirty faces. Heartbroken, with the prompt on the taskbar, Luo Shu continued to count silently. Zombie times 19. For the corpse tide, daring to fight in person is not called bravery, it is called cerebral palsy. The length of the brainstem scalpel is definitely not enough, so Luo Shu tied the brainstem scalpel to the front end of the tang knife. Perfectly extends the attack range. Luo Shu tried it, and it worked. A group of dead heads came in, and Luo Shu's technique was not fancy, and he swung the tang knife quickly, like peeling an apple. Judgment success. Judgment success. Judgment success. The eyes of the zombies lost their highlights, lost dream block. Jiao Jiaos. Zombie X30. Countless corpses blocked the doorway, and the zombies who followed did not dare to go forward. Until Luo Shu pulled the broken door frame open, they spread out on the ground with a clatter. Outside the office door, in the corridor, countless zombies actually took a few steps back. Luo Shu's appearance looks strange and dangerous at the moment. On his left arm, there is a silver metal shield, flying surfboard. His right hand holds a long knife obliquely. Whether it is a shield or a knife, there is an aura on it that makes them feel afraid. Looking at these cuties, Luo Shu giggled happily. Quote. Next, the hunting time is coming. Shall I let you run 40 meters first? In the office, Luo Shu folded and tied a heavy magnetic shoe to his left arm, so that he could hold the flying surfboard. There is one battery left in the flying surfboard. Flying, definitely not. But with the material of this board, it is more than enough to use as a shield. The moment Luo Shu tied this alloy shield, Luo Shu suddenly had a strange feeling. Doesn't it look a bit like Captain America? A mental patient has a broad mind, and he immediately thought of another very interesting way of fighting. Luo Shu put a control patch on his temple. Then, with sharp eyes, he put on the headphones again. MP3 was discovered by accident during the process of looking for tapes. It has no attributes and is just an ordinary ancient electronic device. If there is an exciting BGM. Luo Shu stared at the astonishing number of zombies in front of him, and pressed the MP3 play button. What a bloody battle that must have been. The music is playing. In his mind, the opening theme song of Saint Seiya has already exploded. Hot blood. The small universe is already on fire. However, the real song is The Big Girl Who Is Beautiful, The Big Girl Lang. Luo Shu, who was about to rush out, froze. The eldest girl walked into the green gauze tent. Quote. He kind of wanted to take off his earphones right now. But the zombies didn't hesitate any longer. They attacked again after a brief moment of instinctive fear. Most of the zombies' cries were extremely hoarse and distorted, neither like humans nor wild beasts in nature. But these sounds are now filtered by Luo Shu's earphones, like the accompaniment of this Aranjuan ditty. The corn here has already formed ears, and the breeze is blowing heat waves. Forget it, so be it. Luo Shu thought, how can life be as you wish? It is also a BGM with emotion. He wields a knife. Zombie times 31. The following battle scenes were quietly recorded by Horror Games and stored in the Wonderful Battle Collection. In ancient and modern times, there is no zombie film director who can shoot such a stunning battle between humans and zombies. At the door, the space was narrow. Luo Shu swung his knife suddenly, and directly cut across the judgment area of the heads of the 3 zombies. Zombie times 34. But then, more begging to come. The moment Luo Shu swung the knife, 2 fell down, but more came over and invaded the area around Luo Shu. BGM continues. The big girl who is beautiful, the big girl Lang, the big girl walked into the green gauze tent. Luo Shu stepped back and let them flood into the office. A zombie jumped at his leg. The consecrated surfboard smashed down. The zombie howled, clutching the sunken skull that showed signs of melting, rolling all over the ground in pain. On the other hand, the sword light blooms. Because the zombies stood too densely, Luo Shu stabbed horizontally. The brainstem scalpel at the top cut across 2 judgment areas and dropped 2 pieces of brainstem, and the Tang Dao blade, which was opened, also directly cut off a zombie's body, neck. Luo Shu didn't expect it to be so easy to use. Don't think it's so easy to behead at the Meridian Gate in TV dramas. In fact, it's very difficult to cut off a person's neck directly. Even a well-trained executioner often makes mistakes, and the necks of some nostalgic heads are broken, very painful. And Luo Shu was obviously not very strong in strength, but he cut off the zombie's neck bib like cutting tofu. The consecration is really good. The sorghum here is jointing, and it's singing. The head of the zombie that was still biting into each other fell down. Luo Shu kicked it up and hit the head of another zombie directly in front of him. He instinctively caught the ball, hugged his head, and looked down. The 4 eyes are facing each other. It jumped in fright. The light of the knife is fast. When it landed, it fell to the ground like a puddle of mud. I looked here and there, but why didn't I see my husband? Luo Shu fights harder and harder. The more zombies, the higher the sand value, the faster the reaction. Shield can block or smash. Tang Dao can cut or pick. There are more and more corpses around. There are still zombies squeezing in endlessly outside. Luo Shu felt that he couldn't play here, so he threw out the shield directly. Lang, where are you hiding? I'm so flustered to find it. He controls the flying surfboard and flies back at high speed. Bang, knock down a batch. Bounce back, suck on the arm, throw it out. Another batch knocked down. US team's standard style of play. Cheek. After a while, Luo Shu forcibly smashed a picture of the way out. The zombies that were hit by Kai Guang's surfboard were seriously injured, and they seemed to be afraid of this kind of pain in the soul. All the zombies who were hit by the Kai Guang surfboard, or cut by the Kai Guang Tang knife, are like hyenas who have been beaten and frightened, afraid to go forward. This is what Luo Shu wanted. He rushed out and started harvesting heads like wheat. The sound of fresh blood splattering, the sound of bone fractures, the sound of bone cracking, and the sound of something being cut off filled the entire first floor of the emergency department. The aggressive zombies are running away now. The howls turned into screams. Luo Shu chased after him relentlessly. His white coat was stained with black blood, and his shield and sword were also stained with blood. He laughed wildly. This picture is very eerie. A group of zombies escaped from the Sky Building, howling like ghosts and wolves. A young man with a crazy appearance, armed with a surfboard and a pipe, is chasing after him. At this time, all Luo Shu's teammates can see that in the teammate column, next to Luo Shu's portrait, there is a red exclamation mark that is constantly jumping. And there is a warning prompt. The teammate is being surrounded by a large number of zombies. The teammate is being surrounded by a large number of zombies. Please rescue in time. Obviously, the system will send out a notification when a certain player is too close to a large number of zombies. Luo Shu's 3 teammates all saw the news at this moment, but most of them were helpless. Lei Shihu, the one with the best physical strength among the 4, is also the one who consumes the most. He probably ran a full 25 kilometers. At first he was chased by the police, but later he got involved in the zombie outbreak on the road, and was chased by the zombies again. Fighting and fleeing all the way, he didn't dare to run to crowded places, so he ran further and further away. Now entered a police station, trying to get some weapons. He climbed over the wall and entered the yard of the police station. The back door was unlocked, so he opened it and walked in. It's just that it was pitch black inside, and as soon as I walked in, I kicked an empty wine bottle. The bottle rolled around and hit the wall. In a silent space, the sound is almost equivalent to an explosion. Lei Shihu's little heart twitched suddenly. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. He turned back slowly. Under the moonlight, 2 bloody police officers were looking at him quietly. Half of the face on the left was gnawed off, and on the right tilted its neck, as if its cervical spine was broken. Lei Shihu looked at it carefully for a few seconds and collapsed a little. Why are you two again? He ran for a long time, and unexpectedly ran into the 2 policemen who were chasing him at first. But they are not human anymore. Ah, the 2 zombies walked towards him, initially very slowly, but then their pace became faster and faster. Lei Shihu gritted his teeth, and punched another explosive punch. The flames of the explosion directly killed the 2 zombie police officers. Seeing the 2 zombies fall heavily to the ground with their scorched heads on their heads, Lei Shihu also let go of his heartstrings. Huh. It's gone. Finally, can you rest for a while? Explosive punch consumes 300 points of stamina and 100 points of life. He is now the only one whose health has decreased among the 4, but he is still at a safe value. But only 1/3 of the stamina is left. Lei Shihu turned around and was suddenly taken aback. With the help of a little moonlight outside, he vaguely saw that there seemed to be many figures standing there motionless on both sides of the corridor. Lei Shihu had goosebumps all over his body, and the excessive nervousness gave him a stomach ache. The figures moved. Roar. A certain corpse police officer roared. Then there was a mountain roar and a tsunami. At least dozens of zombies rushed towards him from inside. Lei Shihu also turned around and ran away. With a mournful face, he shouted to the sky. Little brother Luo Shu. Uncle, I can't save you. Good luck to you. Behind him, many zombies in black and white striped uniforms roared and chased after him. His avatar also jumped out of an exclamation point. The teammate is being surrounded by a large number of zombies. The teammate is being surrounded by a large number of zombies. Please rescue in time. Zhao Kai is good, he is not very good now. There are 2 passages from the hypermarket on the 1st floor to the 2nd floor, one is an escalator and the other is a safety staircase. Just now, he worked together with those employees and customers to completely block the 2 passages with the furniture and electrical appliances on the 2nd floor. Thought it was over. Zhao Kaixing even began to think about how to pass the 30 days before. In the end, he never expected. Zombies are not as dull and sluggish as in the movie, the years are quiet. They know that people are upstairs, and they are constantly attacking. Shoulder, kick, bite. Whatever it takes. They seem to have endless energy and stamina. Zhao Kaixing didn't pay much attention at first, but he found that the zombies are constantly working hard, and the huge movement is also attracting the surrounding zombies to gather. There is no consumption, no need to rest, and the troops are constantly increasing. Zombie version of infinite violence. Now he can only organize everyone and continue to move things. Pile them in these 2 aisles. Then try to hold them back. He was sweating profusely, leaning his back on a refrigerator, leaning against the escalator entrance, panting heavily. Luo Shu. Lei Shihu. You wish for luck, I have a heart, I have no power. Behind him, the refrigerator, as well as tables, chairs, benches, cabinets and TV sets were constantly vibrating. After a while, there was a sound of collapse, and then they hurriedly moved things to plug the gap just dug by the zombies. The girls and old people around him cried together. So far, Lu Yi is the only one who has more than enough heart and energy. The streets of Canaan City are already in chaos. Because the road was congested and there were cars and zombies parked everywhere, the jeep that Jun used earlier couldn't drive, so she randomly changed to a school bus that seemed to be of good quality. In many countries, in order to show the importance to children, the school bus is the most likely to hit the car. All the way through, Lu Yi also verified her guess. Bang! Another few cars were knocked over. On both sides of the road, there were many zombies who were eating. When they saw the living people, they rushed over. Ah! Lu Yi looked at these ugly living dead, upset, opened the window, and stretched out an AK with one hand. Bullet rush. In this situation where both sides are moving at a high speed, she still has a high hit rate with the AK in one hand, but there are very few hits on the head. Just venting. She saw the system prompt, and the exclamation mark and the warning message appeared next to the heads of the 3 teammates. She closed the lathe, dropped the rifle, and held her forehead. I want to save you. But I don't know where you are. As soon as the voice fell, a reminder appeared in front of her eyes. You have entered the support range of your teammate, Luo Shu. Okay. After the reminder, a red dot appeared in Lu Yi's field of vision. Next to the red dot is Luo Shu's name, and the straight line distance between the two. The distance is constantly changing with her position. Distance: 9.7 kilometers. Lu Yi sat up straight suddenly, and was very pleasantly surprised. It turns out that, as long as you enter a certain distance, you can see the distance position of your teammates. In horror games, because of the existence of protective rules, and because of the difficulty of personally clearing the level, most players will choose to help their teammates whenever they have the opportunity, that is to help themselves. She stepped on the accelerator, and the school bus quickly accelerated to 100 miles. Little brother number 573, hold on. She took a women's cigarette from the first aid kit in her inventory, held it to her mouth and lit it. Phew, big sister is here to save you. The school bus was running fast. Along the way, it hit and flew several zombies who were chasing the living. By the way, the person they were chasing was also killed, saving him from suffering. Lu Yi's driving skills were not bad, and she drove safely all the way to the vicinity of the hospital. She glanced at the street sign. Shiji Hospital. The hospital, the most dangerous place, right? Under the night sky, several buildings in the hospital are still lit with starlights, and they look very quiet on the surface. Compared with the surrounding buildings, either the lights are all extinguished, or there is already a fire, burning blazingly. Like a beacon of hope. Tower. There are also howls from zombies, but they don't seem to move. It's strange. The hospital shouldn't be so quiet. She frowned, and suddenly, she saw a group of zombies suddenly appearing within the range of the headlights in front of her. Her whole body tensed up, instinctively hit the brakes a little bit. School bus slowed down. Lu Yi saw these zombies clearly. She was a little confused. What's going on? These zombies are dressed, including doctors and nurses, patients, and police officers. They all ran out of the hospital. At a glance, there are about 50 or 60 of them. The school bus slowed down, but didn't stop, so it kept going. And those zombies ran outside in a panic. When the two intersected, several zombies glanced at Lu Yi, and Lu Yi also saw the expressions on their faces. Lu Yi was stunned. Am I wrong? That is. Panic. Do zombies panic? She was still in a daze, when a white figure suddenly flashed in front of her eyes. At the same time, the system also issued a prompt. You have reached the location of your teammates. Navigation has been cancelled. In the horror game, every time you enter the script and meet your teammates for the first time, you will see the name and level above the teammate's head. On the head of that swift and fierce white shadow, it was written impressively. Player: Luo Shu, level, IV3. The man in white was holding a long knife and an oval metal plate in excitement and madness, chasing the group of zombies madly. Don't run away. Give me another one. Just one. I'm only one short of finishing 100 corpses. Lu Yi's mind is completely blank at this moment. What's happening here? It's completely different from the fierce girl rescue plan I expected. During such a moment of hesitation, the school bus passed by, and Lu Yi suddenly came to her senses. I am still driving. Turning around, a telegraph pole approached quickly, and she stepped on the brakes. But it was too late, and hit it. Boom. The driver's seat of the school bus does not have an airbag, and Lu Yi is not used to wearing a seat belt. Under the action of inertia, her forehead hit the front windshield heavily. After a while, Lu Yi staggered out of the car with the AK on her back, still a little dizzy. She found out that she was the first one to lose blood among the four. She also lost 2%. Quickly looked in the direction of the instigator. Hey. Luo Shu. Teammate. I'm here to save. After saying this, he lost all confidence, and his voice was as small as a mosquito. You're dead. On the wide road, the zombies ran extremely fast. Luo Shu couldn't catch up, and the power of the flying surfboard had been completely emptied, so he had no choice but to throw Tang Dao like a javelin. He is not very accurate, so he just takes chances. Anyway, the lineup of zombies fleeing is too dense. Sure enough, a zombie doctor was stabbed in the thigh. The zombie doctor fell to the ground suddenly, then looked back, tried to get up, and continued to jump with a limp. Luo Shu chased after him, pulled out the Tang Dao on his leg, and sighed, Senior brother, I'm sorry, please help me complete the task. I'll give you painless. As he said that, he used the brainstem scalpel tied to the front of Tang Dao to cross the judgment range. A brainstem fell to the ground, and the zombie doctor also stopped. He wiped the blade with his sleeve and looked back. Lu Yi had never been like this before, her face was full of dementia. She just walked over with such a dazed face, looked at the zombies who had barely escaped, and then at Luo Shu, who had an innocent face. After a while, she asked, why are you chasing them? Lu Yi had too many questions, and she couldn't find the most suitable one for a while. Luo Shu puffed out his chest, with a dignified face, pointing at the group of zombies running at the end of the road, because the enemy is there. Lu Yi's eyelids twitched. How can my old lady resist this sudden secondary school? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.